should be working now. Hopefully it's working now. This has not gone well so far. Sorry, I had to fix my PC today, so I had to unplug everything. But there should be no more issues. But for the third time, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Premier Sim Gaming League YouTube channel for round number 3 of this championship at Austria. My name is Dan Field, and I'll be being joined by Jack Canan today.
Yeah, great to be back. We're a very professional broadcast team out here today. We promise all the time. So, great to be back once again alongside all of you. Hello to everyone who's watching in the chat as well. We are here for the third round. It is the Austrian Grand Prix that's coming up for you this evening, which is, of course, we know if you've been following the Twitter account. But we've been posting the famous last lap moment with Otmir over the course of the past few days or so. So again, great to have you all alongside us. We had a brilliant race last time at Kota. And I mean, Kota, what can you say about it? It was such a brilliant race, and it was the redemption for the reigning champion, Jarno Otmir, coming back to win and be back at the top of his game. So looking forward to seeing how he doesn't get on today, because he's not here, everyone, in the YouTube chat. He's currently in Abu Dhabi. And if you're wondering where George is, that's also where George is, out in Abu Dhabi, sunning themselves. But we've got PSGL that covers. I think we're in a better place.
Yeah, who needs to be in Abu Dhabi? No one. You've got PSGL on your screens, and hopefully we can all have a good race today. But of course, Jarno is not racing, and surely this is going to be a fantastic opportunity for our championship leader Barry Burnham to extend his advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. So currently, I'm looking at the point standings that are currently in front of me right now. Currently, Barry Burnham leading the championship on 28 points. Jarno Otmir, after his win, is now second on 18, but of course he's not here, so that is a big opportunity for Barry to extend his lead. Fabrizio Donoso, though, sitting third in the championship on 16 points and has finished fourth twice this season. Hasn't quite managed to get on the podium just yet, but a good opportunity for Fabrizio to get himself right into the fight. But if we take Jarno out of the equation, Barry Burnham has got a 12-point advantage, which is quite a large point advantage in the PSGL system, because we run a slightly different point system here at PSGL. So Barry, it's sort of reminiscent of the first season of PC, isn't it, Dan? Barry taking control early on, but of course, let's see if he can keep it going for the rest of the season.
Absolutely, and it's sort of parallel to last season, where again Barry Burnham sort of took control, and then Jarno Otmir came storming back in. Of course, Jarno winning last week, not taking part today if you are just joining us. And let's talk about the track for tonight. We are headed to Austria, and in the last few seasons of PSGL, it has been there have been some fireworks. Let's be honest.
Yeah, you could say that. If you take in PSGL and real life F1, there's been fireworks, loads of them. So yeah, looking forward to seeing if we get some more tonight potentially. It's interesting to see, because Austria always provides for this, because it's such almost like a straight. Constant straights with DRS. Half the track is DRS, as Kimi Räikkönen said one time. So but we know now with these new cars, we're not quite sure. DRS is not quite as effective in them. So we'll see how we get on. But it's a great opportunity, like we said, for Barry Burnham to extend this championship lead. But again, there's also, just as I'm looking in the lobby here, just seeing that Danny Moreno has actually not managed to make himself available for this race. So two different names in at Mercedes, which is a little bit different. But last week's pole sitter, Thomas Ronhaar, is in at Mercedes this time. So we're interested to see how he gets on. And Samuel Bain is currently reserving in at Mercedes as well for today. But rest of the heavy hitters are all here, of course. And our championship leader, Barry Burnham, is here alongside Lucas Blakely. And let's talk about the latest F1 esports news, Dan, because Alfa Romeo have officially confirmed their lineup. And it was the worst kept secret ever. But Daniel Berezne, Nicholas Longbet, and Tomac Paradzis now at Alfa Romeo.
Absolutely. I mean, three powerhouses. Of course, Danny Berezne has been a part of F1 esports for such a long time. At this point, I believe 2018 was his first season. Longe debuted in 2019, and this is going to be Paradzis' first season in F1 esports, because he's finally 16 years old. And what a lineup that is! It's got the perfect mix between the old guard and then the up and coming new stars. And I'm really excited to see how Alfa Romeo can get on. As I'm just noticing, some people are beginning to ready up, so we should be getting underway for qualifying very soon. Of course, we've got the full format, 18 minutes in Q1, 15 minutes in Q2, and then Q3 is 12 minutes. And Jack, are there any early shouts for pole position here?
It's hard to tell, of course, because it came down right to the wire, and it was Thomas Ronhaar who was on pole position last time with a lap that came out of absolutely nowhere. So interesting to see. Barry Borman has not been on pole this season so far, and I think an interesting stat that we might be able to see if we can carry it forward for the rest of the season. So far, nobody has won from pole position so far this season. So let's see if anybody can actually convert it. But I think an early tip potentially is probably Barry for pole position early on. But you've got the likes of Rasmussen, Longe, all of these guys that are in with us this evening. So it's very, very hard to tell who's going to be on pole position. But I think I'm going to go with Barry on this one, Dan. We'll wait and see what happens. The drivers currently, we're all readied up in the lobby. So we'll be loading in very, very shortly. Just do stick with us for full qualifying for here at the Austrian Grand Prix.
Absolutely. We'll bring you all the action in just a few moments' time after a quick word from our sponsors. And here we are, everybody. Lobby is just getting underway for Q1 here in Austria. Let us know in the live chat who you are going to pick for your pole positions. As finally, we are about to get underway. Loading is just about to get ready. And here it is. Nice, clear blue skies in Austria.
Yeah, a beautiful, beautiful day in Austria, which makes me very happy because I'm actually going here on Sunday, not to the track, but I'm going to Austria, so I'm looking forward to this. So hopefully the weather's exactly like this. But yeah, looking forward to this right now, and we'll have a little bit of a quiet time in Q1 as we wait for the drivers to get out onto the circuit. But as you can see, we mentioned before two new reserves are in at Mercedes, Samuel Bain and Thomas Ronhaar, currently in for those two. And then we have Josh Ida, who is also reserving in at AlphaTauri for the missing Sebastian Job. So we're waiting for Sebastian to make his debut this season. Hopefully he can join us very, very soon. And apart from that, I think we're missing just one driver. We're kind of just missing Simon Weigang. He's had some connection problems that we're trying to get into the session. So we might be a little bit of a shame if we lose Simon from this. But now we're just literally waiting for a car to actually come out onto the circuit. And finally, we do have one. Peter Stakelek is currently out on his way out of the circuit. And there are some certains in life, Dan. There's death, there's taxes, and then there's drivers on the intermediates in Q1.
Yep, and if you're unsure as to why these drivers are opting for the intermediate tyres, just so they don't waste one set of the dries whilst they're on their cycle laps. A lot of these drivers just use this time to set up their cars and get ready. And I'm noticing a little bit of lag on Stahelek's park. Hopefully that's not on my side of things. But we've also got a few other drivers out on circuit, one of them being the Alfa. There's no Alfa Romeo out on track, unless that's my eyes playing tricks on me. And no, it is actually Brendan Lee and his Ferrari. And again, another tenured driver on the PSGL grid. And Jack, do you tip good things for this man today? Oh dear.
Yeah, now they were doing the signature Brendan Lee thing. If you've been following his social media, to be fair, I think could we ask Brendan to do that as he lines up on the grid, please? Because if you haven't followed his social media, go do that. Go follow Brendan Lee on Twitter, because he's now got a viral clip of him doing 360 spins on his way to the grid to warm his tyres up. So we've just got one on the stream right there. Thank you very much, Brendan Lee, for that. But Brendan, yeah, as you mentioned, he's we'll tip some great things for him for this one. But yeah, he's been performing solidly throughout the season so far. Himself and Fabrizio had a really hard race against each other, of course, back at Bahrain. Himself and Fabrizio going wheel to wheel, and it was a great battle to see. And then again, solid effort around USA. Fabrizio again with another 4th place finish there. So he's had 2 4th places so far, Fabrizio Donoso. So we'll see how he gets on today. But we now just have the current first out laps on the intermediate tyres. Again, checking setups, checking force feedback, checking everything's loaded in correctly. So don't expect anything for the next few minutes or so as they just get themselves dialed in for the rest. But as we will mention a couple of times, maybe just a million times throughout the broadcast, Jarno is not here. He is in Abu Dhabi.
I mean, I'd imagine I've not got the live chat up on my screen at the moment, but I imagine there's at least 3 messages in the last 10 about Jarno not being here. He is in Abu Dhabi, not at all jealous. Same goes for George Morgan, and that's why you're stuck with me for this evening, Jack. But both of them should be back very soon, I believe. George is still away for next week, so that means that I'm also going to be taking you all through on that, but sadly we're going to be missing Jack.
I know, I'm going to be out here, so it's I'm looking forward to that, to be honest. I haven't been on holidays in ages, and we'll see how Austria is like. I'm looking forward to visiting, but so you'll have some new faces, I think, which is always maybe nice now and again for PSGL. So let's see how everybody gets on. But we just have now the in-laps and the out-laps for the intermediate tyres, so again, expect nothing for the next couple of minutes until we see the guys who decide to come out on the dry tyres. And we'll wait and see if we can expect anything big. Marcel Kiefer goes to the top currently on the intermediates, but Marcel, again, he's also had solid performances. He's finished 6th twice so far, so consistency across the board for Denosa and Marcel Kiefer, and he came from quite a long way back last week with a fantastic strategy call to pit earlier on, and then using up those softs towards the end. So Marcel Kiefer looking for an uptake in form. Freddie Rasmussen, of course, his Red Bull teammate, didn't have a good race last time out. He retired because he had an audio glitch and couldn't actually hear his car, so that was why he ended up having to retire in the pit lane, if you are wondering. So Freddie, who was second in the championship for scoring no points last week, is now going to have a task ahead of him, but I think Freddie is going to be out for revenge this week.
Absolutely, of course, the motivation is always there with these F1 esports drivers who are competing in league racing, even though there's no real prize for winning at the end. It is for the glory and, of course, for the practice as well. So we're going to expect some good things from Freddie Rasmussen today when he eventually comes out on circuit. It's a bit of a ghost town in terms of slick runners. We've only got 3 drivers out on, 3 drivers out on track. Jake Burnham, Daniele Haddad and Louis Welch all just running on the intermediates, and still we're about a third of the way through in this session. Still no one seemingly wanting to come out on a set of the slicks, but I'm seeing some activity down at Mercedes. It's Samuel Bean, the first driver, finally out on a set of the softs.
At last, we have somebody out on the slick tyres. So Samuel Bain comes out onto the circuit for his for a sort of new colours on the car, Mercedes, for him this week, as well as Thomas Ronhar reserving for both the Mercedes drivers. Jarno Watmere away in Abu Dhabi. Danny Moreno not around this week either. So we'll have some new faces in at that team, waiting for others to come out. But he's the only driver out on the slick tyres currently is Samuel Bain. So let's see how he gets on in this new car. This is the first time we've been around Austria in PSGL PC this season so far, so interesting to see how he will get on. So now we wait to see as we come around. It's a very quick lap around here, as you can see. Even on the intermediate tyres, they were doing 1:07, so expect these times to get very, very quick around here. Half the track is DRS as well, don't forget. And of course, during the week, while we wait for everything to sort of kick off here in Q1, we've had a good week at PSGL, haven't we? 20,000 subs on the channel now reached. Thank you all very much for the support. And not only that, last week, we've now have the most viewed video on PSGL at 85,000 views on the previous stream. And we were only 7 viewers off of breaking the all-time record on PSGL. 7. It was all it was. We peaked at about 6,400 last week and 85,000 views on last week's stream. So thank you all very much for the support. It's very much appreciated. And Samuel Bain is now going to get us underway with some times on the slick tyres.
Absolutely, as he completes the first sector of 16 flat through here off the exit of turn number 3. It's a downhill climb. That doesn't make sense, but it's the downhill run in towards turn number 4. I don't believe he's pushing too hard at the moment, but heavy on the brakes and in towards the 4th corner, and he's going to take this in towards the 2nd sector where the double left-hander comes up next, and arguably this is the most technical part of the track as he now flies through in towards turn number 8, 44.6 at the moment. He's got the track completely to himself. No one has dared to come out on a set of the slicks yet, aside from the Spaniard in the Mercedes today, as he flies through turn number 9 and down towards the final corner at turn number 10. Careful not to invalidate, and I think I might have just jinxed him there. Samuel Bean runs off the circuit. At his time would have been a 4.1. It would have been a decent enough lap, but that is an invalid run, and just to rub salt into the wounds, he's invalidated his next run as well.
Yeah, just running a bit wide out of the final corner. Of course, you got to be so careful with the track limits around here. You cannot afford to run too wide to invalidate the times, but it can sometimes be a little bit unpredictable as to where you can and where you can't run wide on the final corner. Very, very strict with the curbs on the outset of it. So a little bit more work to do for Samuel Bain here before he has to go for another run. But nobody else is out on the circuit. Well, I say that one of the Alpines is currently heading down the pit lane, as is one of the Aston Martin of Peter Stakelek. So we're going to get some more out on the circuit. Johnny Tormel is out on the circuit, as is Matthias van Erven in the Haas. And we have another one of the Alpine. One of the Alpines I definitely did see coming down the pit lane was Patrick Sipos, who's coming down the track now as well. Followed by Peter Stakelek. Wilson Hughes is also coming down the pit lane as far as I can see as well. He's on his way out, so it's getting busy now. Everybody's coming out at once as they file their way out onto the circuit. So one thing as well, with the track being so short down, it can sometimes get a little bit, especially in Q1, it can get a little bit tight for finding space to go on a push lap.
Yeah, of course, we're seeing Joni Tormela on his outlap at the moment. He's got no one in front of him at this point, but I'd imagine it with how spaced out these drivers are, I wouldn't be surprised if he catches up to some traffic unless he backs off here, which is seemingly what he's doing. He's taking it a little bit slow, but finally, everybody, we are getting to see some on-track action. No more intermediate lull period. We've got some flat out laps here, as there goes Joni Tormela to cross the line and begin his lap of Austria.
Yeah, here he goes up towards turn 1, then all the way to the left-hand side. Pick the apex on the right-hand side, nicely getting it turned in there. Joni Tormela, race winner from last season at Zandvoort. Coming up towards turn 2 and 3 now. The kink to the left. Up towards turn 3 he goes, looks for the braking point just after the 100. Hard on the brakes, getting it turned in and back on the power as early as he can. Maybe not the absolute ideal line there from Joni Tormela. He does go fastest, of course, in the first sector for now. Dropping downhill then for turn 4, onto the brakes, down to 4th gear. Looking for that apex. It's a horrible corner if you get it wrong, with the camber dragging you out wide. Round turn 5 towards turn 6 and 7 he goes now. Flicks it into the left at 5, sorry, down towards 6. Trying not to run wide on the curb here. Round the long left-hander then at this next part, all the way to the curb on the right-hand side. A little bit of traffic coming up, but that will get out of his way. And now the crucial last couple of corners here. He's got to flick it in to this very fast right-hander and get it lined up for the last corner, which drops away from you, and try not to invalidate on the curb on the left-hand side. And Joni Tormela will get us underway with a 1 minute 4.1 from Joni Tormela. And let's see if that is going to be anywhere near the benchmark for what needs to be what will get you through to the next part of qualifying. But now you can see how much faster we are already. 1 minute 4.110 is the first time, but immediately beaten by Matthias van Erven, who goes to a 104.0.
And here comes Patrick Sipos coming up to the line. He goes into second position. The Aston Martin now of Piotr Stahelek has unfortunately invalidated his run. We got Longue on a lap as Wilson Hughes is the first man to dip his toes into the 1 minute 3s. Barry Burnham now, the Iranian ace, coming up towards the line. Where's he going to go? He goes right to the top, immediately displacing Wilson Hughes. And Alvaro Caraton finds his way into second by just about 400ths off the back of Barry. So incredibly competitive times already. What about Lucas Blakely, the other McLaren, his teammate, currently at the top of the order as Freddie Rasmussen goes into third. Here's Blakely now coming up towards the line. Can he jump his teammate? Oh, he can only muster third position. But at the end of this first run of flurry of laps, what a session we're having so far, Jack.
Yeah, it's super, super close as we expect. All the top 3 within the same 10th of a second. But of course, remember that the bottom 5 do get eliminated. Around here, Thomas Ronhaar goes to P4 on his effort in the Mercedes. Freddie Rasmussen is now 5th with his effort. He's on an in-lap right now. He's currently in the drop zone. Brendan Lee, Nicholas Longue, Fabrizio Donoso, who we don't expect to stay there for very long. He's about to begin his push lap now, and Samuel Bain is beginning his lap now as well. Daniele Haddad is on the cusp right now, and believe me, the cutoff is going to be very, very tight around here. Brendan Lee is currently on his push lap right now, down towards the last 2 corners. He's got some traffic in front of him. He's got one of the Red Bulls, I think, in front of him. I think that is a Marcel Kiefer, who is now coming into the pit lane, or Freddie Rasmussen, couldn't quite tell there. Around the final corner comes Brendan Lee. Needs to get a time on the board. There's Brendan Lee. Where does it put him? It puts him 7th for now, but it should be safe for the moment in time. Nicholas Longue now safely into P10 as we wait for some others to set their times as well. Daniele Haddad, he does improve, but only enough to go 15th fastest, and Marcel Kiefer down in 14th. So Lewis Welch currently in the drop zone. Stakelek, Donoso, who's also on a push lap, and Samuel Bain, who's also on the push laps. Let's see who's going to end up right now. The man who's in danger of getting pushed out is Daniele Haddad, and maybe Marcel Kiefer if he doesn't get his act together here in the last couple of minutes of qualifying. Still plenty of time for these guys to improve again. Samuel Bain coming around the last corner, and he will go to 8th fastest and demotes Daniele Haddad to the drop zone. Donoso then, here he comes to the line. Will he get himself safely out? He does, but only just, Dan, 14th.
Yeah, no, that is not going to be secure for Fabrizio Donoso at the moment. And look at how close things are in qualifying. We have 4 drivers in the 1 minute 3.8. We've got 3 in the 1 minute 3.9, and then more than I can count in the 1 minute 4 flats. So incredibly close margins at this point. Stahelek still yet to set a representative lap time, but he does need to get a time on the board, as we've already, Patrick Saipos has pretty much just filled up the tank, fitted a fresh set of tyres, and gone straight back out. He is not feeling safe on that 1 minute 4.066, and I would not blame him with the amount of talent that's in behind him. He does need to improve on his time.
Yeah, he's definitely not safe on that, as well as he heads down on his way down to the next part of the lap. He's lining himself up to begin. He'll be the first to set a time on this next phase of Q1. We're getting towards the end of it now, so it's going to be very, very tight. As you can see, 104.0 brings you down to Fabrizio Donoso, and the cut-off is a 104.1, which is Joni Tormola at the moment. But that is only a 10th and a half that covers first down to 16. That is how quick this lap is around here and how tight the margins are. So Stakelek, of course, he hasn't set, as you mentioned, has not set a representative time. Everybody's in the pit lane except for Patrick Sipos. Now, he's a race winner as well from 2 seasons ago, back at Silverstone, and came through to win that race brilliantly in a reserve role, and now he's at Alpine this season, so he's going to begin his next effort up towards turn 1. He's got a car coming out of the pit lane as he comes around here, so he should be safe. Lucas Blakely has decided he's retired, and he thinks that he is very much safe where he is, so obviously assuming that everybody else is not going to improve around him, but again, probably the right call. He seems to be pretty safe up in 3rd place on a 103.893, just 2 thousandths in front of Thomas Ronar, who's on an 895, and 2 thousandths behind Alvaro Caraton, who's on an 891, so super close up there at the top. Patrick Sipos coming down towards the Sector 2 split in just a moment's time. He's not gone quickest in the first sector, but we'll be able to gauge if he's on an improvement in just a second's time as he comes across towards the Sector 2 split. Getting out to the right-hand side, now flicking it into the left, maybe a tad wide, maybe not ideal for Sipos there as he comes through, but he's now 300ths up on his time, which would put him a good few positions up, about 4 places up if he carries on this improvement towards the last 2 corners here. Flicking it into the right-hand side now, looking for the apex out to the left-hand side. Try not to invalidate. Make sure he doesn't invalidate in the last corner. Up towards the line then Patrick Sipos. He should improve on this time, and he goes to 9th fastest with that time, which demotes, or well, for the moment, demotes Marcel Kiefer down to the drop zone.
Yeah, Marcel Kiefer would be a big name to go out in Q1. He's currently on an outlap, but someone we do need to watch out for is Jake Burnham, currently in 13th position on the exact same lap time as Nicolas Longuet. He is well and truly in danger despite not being the driver at risk, and he's already 200ths down on his previous best lap, so it's not looking spectacular for Jake Burnham at this point. But if he could just find maybe a 10th, then he could see himself safely into Q2 as he takes turn number 4 now. Very easy to lock up through here, but he's taking that very nicely, using all the track on the exit to carry as much speed as possible, as in towards the double left-hander of turns number 6, and then in towards turn 7 through the second sector split. He's up by 600ths of a second. This could see him way up the order, probably ahead of Wilson Hughes at this point in time. So in towards the final corner, where can the young Englishman find himself as through turn number 10, careful not to invalidate on the extremities of the circuit to cross the line now. Jake Burnham goes into 5th, and I believe, Jack, that'll see him into next session.
Certainly will. Joni Tormola up by a lot here, and he goes to 4th, 103.894 for Joni Tormola. As we wait now for the rest of the drivers to come across, Peter Stakelek does set a time, and he goes 8th fastest with that time. So good effort from him there. Rasmussen up by half a tenth, and he goes quickest on a 103.843 for now. waiting for more improvements with Daniele Haddad going into P8 there with that effort. One of the Alfa Romeos now coming up to the line, and it's Nicolas Longue who's on a lap right now, and he's currently in the drop zone, Nicolas Longue, so he needs a big improvement to get himself out. Fabrizio Donoso's in the drop zone. He's up by a 10th though. Donoso goes to the top, 103.838 for Donoso, waiting for more improvements. Wilson Hughes goes to 4th fastest as we wait for more to set times. One of the Mercedes coming across the line. Samuel Bain coming across the line. He improves very slightly, but he's only 13th with that effort. Lewis Welch not able to currently improve, but he's now on his final effort. Donoso getting himself safely through then, you would assume, as we wait for the final times to come through. Wilson Hughes safe, but now the drivers who are in danger, really. Matthias van Erven, he needs an improvement. He's down in 16th. He's currently in the drop zone. Patrick Sipos is out. Brendan Lee is the man who's really in danger if anybody else behind him. He's got Longue and Kiefer who have not improved yet. So Brendan Lee, he's up by a 10th and a bit though. So he's on a good big improvement here from Brendan Lee. If he carries this forward, he actually could go fast. He's invalidated though. He's invalidated it. This is danger zone for Brendan Lee. Nicolas Longue is coming up behind him now. Can Longue improve? Can he put him in danger here as he comes across the start-finish line? He certainly can. He goes to the top. What about Marcel Kiefer? He can demote Brendan Lee out of Q1 here, and he is improving. Matthias van Erven can't quite get out. It's 4 thousandths behind Brendan Lee. Marcel Kiefer could be the man to displace Brendan Lee and knock him out of Q1. Here comes Kiefer. Is it enough? It is not enough. Marcel Kiefer is out in the end. Brendan Lee survives just by 4 1,000ths of a second, and the shock exit is Marcel Kiefer out of Q1, but Nicolas Longue, where did he pull that out of up to first?
Nicolas Longue getting through at the very depth of things, and Brendan Lee surviving by the skin of his teeth. Just 4,000ths of a second separate himself and Matthias van Erven, who was unfortunately drawn the short end of the stick here. He's out in 16th place, being joined by Patrick Sipos, Marcel Kiefer and Louis Welch, and I think that is a massive, massive loss that Marcel Kiefer is out and in 18th position here. He's not going to be advancing into the next part of qualifying, and I'd say that is a big shock to everyone in the live chat.
Yeah, you would expect Marcel Kiefer to like 18th on the grid. It's again, such fine margins. All it was maybe even less than half a tenth, and Marcel Kiefer ends up 18th fastest and out in Q1. And Brendan Lee, well, I think that was a little bit close for comfort, don't you think, for Brendan Lee? 4 1,000ths he makes it in by. But the fastest man in Q1, currently Nicolas Longue with the fastest time by 9 1,000ths. And you can just have a look. Look how close that is, all the way down to 15th. It is a tenth and a half, basically, all the way down to 15th fastest, and a 10th separates the top 11 drivers, or 9 100ths if you want to be pedantic about it. But Brendan Lee scraping through. Samuel Bain doing a good job to get through as well. Stakelek also making it through. Daniele Haddad, much better effort from him this week, making it through into the next part of qualifying. But Nicolas Longue and Fabrizio Donoso, Freddie Rasmussen, Barry Borman, your top 4 in that one. So let's see how it gets on with Nicolas Longue. I mean, pulled the lap out of nowhere in the end to get him out there. But again, I think a bit of a shock one is that Patrick Sipos out in Q1. You don't expect that too much.
Yeah, Patrick Sipos being out in the first session of qualifying is a big loss. Of course, recently announced as returning to the Alpine team. His Alpine teammate has actually gone through as well. Of course, Samuel Bean is he's advanced to the next session of qualifying. Q2 is about to get underway. We have 15 minutes, 15 drivers scrapping it out for a place inside the top 10, and I will bring you back over trackside, and it is still blue skies out there, but there's a slight bit of cloud coverage I've noticed.
There's a small bit, yeah, just over the hills here in Austria. It's obviously we're situated in the mountains here in Spielberg, so it's not uncommon to get the little microclimates like you get in Spa. We did have our wet race in Kota last time out, wet race to end in the dry. And, well, it'd be interesting to get a wet race around here, but again, maybe not the favourite of the drivers to have a wet race. It's probably the condition that they've practiced the least amount in, but it may provide for some very exciting moments. But let's see how everything gets on in Q2 then. So again, reminder to those who may not be familiar with the new rules. The tyre rule for this season has changed. So there is no benefit to qualifying on a set of medium tyres, an example, or hard compound tyres. It's the requirement to start the race on the tyre compound that you set your fastest time on in Q2 is no longer a requirement. So it's basically now Q2 is all about flat out pace once again. But it does mean that the strategies do become maybe quite one-sided. It's very rare to get maybe it'll get one or two drivers to try something different in the race. But again, the Q2 tyre rule has all changed, so it makes Q2, well, even tighter, I suppose.
Absolutely, and it just means that everyone's going to be going full pelt, and I know that Brendan Lee in particular, he would love to try and aim for P11 and always sandbag right on his final lap, but that is no more, and everyone has the same objective, to achieve a place inside the top 10, and the first gladiators are out on a circuit. The first man being on their lap is Nicolas Longuet, the Frenchman in the Alfa Romeo, just being announced today as signing for the Alfa team, as through the second sector now he comes as in towards the double left-hander, where he's going to swing it in through here, and I don't believe he's pushing. I always say that he's on a 44.6. We'll see what the Frenchman can do. He's got a Ferrari car just in behind him. That is Donoso on an outlap. Rasmussen, I believe, is not the next car behind him. It's Alvaro Carreton that's in behind in the Williams, so we need to watch out for the Spaniard. But through now the final corner, what can Longuet achieve as he crossed the line? And it's going to be a 1 minute 4.3. Carreton is up next, and he's backed off, unfortunately.
Yeah, the one of 4.3 from Nicolas Longuet, so the banker effort. Again, Daniel Haddad coming in behind on one of 4.4. Yanni Tormela one of 4.3 as well on the first banker efforts. One of 4.1 is Barry Borman's banker effort here in Q2. More times coming in thick and fast as we all cross the line. Stacklet goes to third. Wilson Hughes on a 1 of 4.2. And then you have Lucas Blakely, 1 of 4.0 for his first effort for Lucas Blakely, who took pole position in Bahrain. Thomas Ronarlo, last week's pole sitter, on a 1 of 4.0 just behind him with his first effort here. Waiting for more to cross the line. We got one of the Hasses of Jake Burnham coming up behind as well. He'll go to just outside P11. Of course, he hasn't quite set a representative time yet. So the first banker efforts are in. Lucas Blakely with the fastest time, and Thomas Ronhar splitting himself between the two McLarens. But again, remember, the efforts were down to a 103.8 in Q1, so expect the times to fall very quickly here. But again, they use this time to use a set of used tyres that they maybe used in Q1. And maybe the first banker effort is really to get yourself a time on the board in case it rains, and B, it gives you a delta so that you can see whether you're up or down on your sector times. And psychologically, Dan, I think it's nicer to have a green delta time than a red one.
Absolutely, of course. That was only just re-added recently, if I'm not mistaken. So good to see that Codemasters have brought that one back, as Alvaro Carreton has just crossed the line. Jake Benham is also on a second push lap in a row here. We'll see what the Haas man can do today, as in towards now the final corner, turn number 10, where it's very easy to invalidate by running over the curbs. Benham has done that very nicely as he crossed the line to go into 8th position. The bottom 5 in this session will be eliminated, and that is currently occupied by Yanni Tormela, Daniele Haddad, Alvaro Carreton, Samuel Bean and Brendan Lee. But still, Jack, we have 10 minutes left in this session.
There's still plenty of time, and you are right, the cloud cover is getting a little bit more pronounced as you come around here. You can sort of see it looming around menacingly around Austria right here. So could we see a wet end to qualifying, or maybe not, or will it just threaten and stay there and make us give us false hope for Q3? Who knows? But we're waiting to see how everyone gets on right now. But the first banker times are in right now. Nobody else is on a push lap. Samuel Baines coming into the pit lane, as is Alvaro Carreton. And we also just one more car out on the circuit, which is Jake Benham, who's on his way into the pit lane as well. So we'll have the lull in proceedings for a little bit in Q2 as the drivers all come into the pit lane. And, well, everybody has set a time for the moment, but there's no big rush, it seems, to get a time on the board right now, as we have more cars coming out of the pit lane. Yanni Tormela is currently out on the track, as is Brendan Lee, who scraped through by the thinnest of margins in Q1. He's now made it into Q2. Let's see if he can make something of it. Barry Borman now as well. Again, you can see maybe some early runs here, but you would expect now these next runs to be on a new set of the soft tyres.
And just to get my conspiracy theorist tin foil hat out, Jack, maybe because we didn't see too many drivers coming out at the beginning of Q1 on a set of the intermediates, and that could possibly mean that those tyres are needed. And with the cloud coverage beginning to build with 8 minutes to go in Q2, we could see some rain possibly at the end of this session, or maybe at the beginning of the final parts of qualifying. The battle for pole in the wets is certainly going to cause some surprises, but we do have a runner out on track, and we've got plenty of runners out on circuit, but it is Joni Tormala to begin his second lap first, and unfortunately he might have jumped the gun because he's got a little bit of traffic. Up in front is a Williams and a blue chevron of, I believe, a Williams car, and the Ferrari's just coming out as well. That's Donoso. He's got out of the way nicely, so we'll see what Joni Tormala can do as he comes through the easiest corner on the F1 calendar, turn number 2, and it's a heavy braking zone towards turn number 3 at the peak of this circuit. Already Joni is 800ths up on his previous best time, and he has backed off here. He's applied the brakes, he's shifting down, so he's not pushing here.
Yeah, he's sort of trying to get out of the way of Brendan Lee, who's behind him on a push lap as well. So Brendan, again, he's got no time on the board yet. He needs a time. He's got lots of traffic, though, to negotiate. He's got one of the Mercedes getting out of the way there on the left-hand side, but it is a little bit distracting. Overall, turns into the left-hand side at this next corner, turn 5, next to turn 6, flicking it into the left, then round 7, making sure he keeps it within the track limits as he comes down towards sector number 3. Then needs a time that would see him through into Q3. His teammate Fabrizio Donoso is on the same time as Barry Burnham up in P3 and P4. So Brendan Lee, let's see if he can get himself out of Q2 into Q3, crosses the line, and he goes fastest, 103.942 on his set right there as they all fall to. Ron Har's invalidated this time. Lucas Blakely, though, is on a massive improvement at the moment. This could be the fastest time here. Barry Burnham, 103.796, goes to the top. Blakely, this is not going to be far off for Lucas Blakely. Around the final corner comes Blakely. Where is this going to put him? Maybe the top. It does, but 103.743 for Lucas Blakely. So McLaren 1 and 2, and Stackley with an impressive effort goes to P4, 104.0 for him on his time. We're into the 1 minute 3.7s, and big surprise, it's the McLarens up the top again.
And Freddie Rasmussen thinks about joining them, doesn't quite get close enough to nestle himself in between the two McLaren cars, as we've got Daniel Haddad not improving on his previous best time. What about Alvaro Carreton, currently in the drop zone, and he is pushing so through now the final corner. The Spaniard is on the cusp of being eliminated in qualifying if he doesn't improve on this lap, as he crossed the line now to go into 4th position, puts Jake Burnham into the drop zone, who is not pushing on a lap at this point. Longue is, however, and the Frenchman again in 12th. There's a similar situation to what he was in Q1, as I believe there's been another time at the top, and it was Fabrizio Donoso splitting the two McLarens. So the Chilean, not afraid to get his hands dirty. His former teammate at Alpine in F1 Esports is now on a run, and oh dear, Longue invalidating at turn number 9, and he's going to complete this lap anyways. What's it going to be for him? It would have been a 103.881 that would have seen him into 5th position.
Yeah, would have slotted him just in front of Brendan Lee there, and just behind Alvaro Carreton. So, yeah, it would have been. Yeah, it's just. But he would have been safe through with that lap for Nicholas Longue. He's going now. That's no ideal. He's going to have to go again. Daniel Haddad getting out of the way of one of the cars there of Thomas Ronhar, who is on an improvement, 10th and a bit up on his best. This could see him propel him right up the order here for Thomas Ronhar. Comes across the line, he goes to 4th, just in front of Freddie Rasmussen, and that demotes Wilson Hughes out into this drop zone area. Stackley on the cusp on a 104.053, which was the cutoff in Q1 from what I remember. So it's all very close once again. Nicholas Longue, though, he did pull the time out of nowhere to get himself through again. Samuel Bain in the drop zone, Daniel Haddad in the drop zone, Jake Burnham and Wilson Hughes is also in the drop zone currently. His cutoff time of 104.053 set by Peter Stackley in P10 at the moment. So plenty of time still to go, though, for these guys. So you can see how quick the laps are. 1 minute 3 we're down to. So there's not a lot of time required to set laps around here. But it's interesting to see, again, Lucas Blakely quickest, Donoso splitting them, though. So really good pace from Donoso showing early on.
It just seems like a lot of these drivers are coming into the pits, but not for Jake Burnham. He's actually going for another push lap on worn out soft tyres. He's already done 2 runs on this, so this is 3rd time's a charm. Currently in the drop zone with a 104.2. Slightly down, we saw that previously from him, but only 200ths off, so the time is recoverable, and he only lost 200s in essentially what is one corner. So in towards turn number 4, what can he do as he uses all the track on entry, kisses the apex beautifully, and then all the track on exit, scrubbing the minimum speed off, as now he keeps it tight knit to the right hand side to swing it across over towards the left in towards the second sector split, where he's up by almost 0.2 of a second, looking at a 104 flat. It's not looking great for him if he does achieve that, because he'd only be in about 10th position ahead of Stahalek and well and truly in the danger zone, and he's backed off. So Jake Burnham coming into the pit lane now, and that leaves all drivers in the pits. And we've also seen a retirement from Lucas Blakely. He feels he's safe and he's going to stay in the pit lane for this one.
Yeah, I think that's encouraging from Jake Burnham, isn't it? Because he is on, as we mentioned, a U set of tyres. So if he's found 0.2 in the middle sector on a U set of tyres, then you would imagine he's got the pace to get through. As Brendan Lee now is the man out on the circuit for this next part. The sun's starting to shine through a little bit more now, so maybe the rain scare is over. But that will mean now the track will start to heat up a bit more with the sun shining down as we wait for this next part of qualifying. Q2, 2 minutes and 50 seconds almost remaining. Q3 about to come up, and 2,000 of you joining us for qualifying too. Thank you all so much for joining us. Stick with us. Q3 coming up next, followed by the race, 50% distance. So stick around for that. It's going to be a fantastic race coming up for you in just a few moments. But now the final runs of Q2 are about to get underway. Brendan Lee will get us underway in a few seconds time. He's currently P8. His teammate Fabrizio Donoso second currently on a 1 minute 3.787. So 10th and a bit separating them is all. Brendan Lee scraped through out of Q1 by 0.004 of a second. Can he get himself a little bit more safely through? You know, Brendan's got the speed, he's got the talent, so let's see what happens. Can he make him sure that he's secure in his position? The final runs of Q2 getting underway now as Brendan Lee gets us underway.
Absolutely, the top 4 all staying in the pits, so it is 11 drivers taking us for battle around this short circuit, and it is Brendan Lee to try his luck first as he begins his lap through the first sector. DRS wide open, reaching speeds of up to 200 miles per hour at the braking zone, and already this is good sign for him. He's up by 0.03 of a second. You can only improve by minimal margins in that first sector. He's going to find it all in sector 2 as he now makes a downhill climb towards turn number 4 off the exit of the corner, getting the power down as soon as possible underneath the gantry and in towards the double left-hander. The Scuderia Ferrari driver, the prancing horse, now up in the second sector by almost 1/10 of a second. Can this see him into the next session of qualifying and in the battle for pole position, as now in towards the final corner, the final 2 corners even. It's now turn number 10 for Brendan Lee as he rises out through here. DRS opens across the line. What can he do? He goes ahead of his teammate, and that is second position. He should safely be into the next part of qualifying. Alvaro Carreton jumps up into 5th. So the Spaniard has also got himself into a more secure position. Stahalek is down on his previous best. What about Daniele Haddad, as now he's coming up towards the line? What can he do in that Williams? Currently in 15th. He's in 9th. Not secure at this point in time as Freddie Rasmussen now across the line. He goes into 3rd position, not too far off the back of Brendan Lee. So with 30 seconds left to go in this qualifying, the bottom 5 is Stahalek, Hughes, Burnham, Longuet and Bean as Ndobu goes to the top.
Josh Ido with 103.680. What a brilliant time from the Welshman who was reserving again at AlphaTauri. Goes up to the top on a 103.680. Wilson Hughes was on an improvement. He was on a 103.852, which would have been enough to put him P10, but he invalidated this final run. Not enough. Jake Burnham on his way to the line now. Can he get himself out of the drop zone here at Austria? Across the line, yes he can. 3rd place for Jake Burnham and knocks Daniele Haddad out of this session. Now Thomas Ronhar is the man who's on the cusp right now, 103.839, and he is 2,000 up on his best in Q1. He's desperate to get the slipstream off the car in front of him as well, just to give him that little bit extra, but it is so tight. Look at that second all the way down to 7th. They're all on a 103.7, so the slightest improvement will give you so much around here. Thomas Ronhar, can he find any improvement in this late phase of qualifying? Coming round sector 2 then, it is very, very tight across the board. Longuet makes it in second place, 103.708 for him. But Ronhar now, the man to watch as they come up towards the last corner. He's got some cars behind him who are also on improvements, but again, it is so tight. Barry Burman, a little bit looking like he's in danger at the moment. P8 for him. If anybody else improves behind him, he could be in trouble. Thomas Ronhar, though, can he get himself out of the drop zone? Cross the line. Yes, he can. 4th place. Demotes Barry Burman to P9. Is anybody else on an improvement as we come around the last part of this lap? No, they are not. So Joni Tormala is out of this session. Daniele Haddad, Stakelek, Hughes, and Samuel Bain are all out in this session. So, but have a look at that. Second down to ninth, 103.796. That is Austria in a nutshell.
Take a look at those margins between Jake Burnham, Brendan Lee and Freddie Rasmussen. Jake Burnham is on a 1 minute 3.771. Just 3 thousandths off of him is Brendan Lee, and then just a further 4 thousandths off of him is Freddie Rasmussen. 7 thousandths of a second separating these three incredibly talented drivers, just waiting for the last cars to get service. Your top 10 at this point in time is Josh Idowu, Nicholas Longe, Lucas Blakely, Thomas Ronhard, Jake Benham, Brendan Lee, Frederick Rasmussen, Fabrizio Donoso, Barry Burmand and Alvaro Carreton, squeezing into the next part of qualifying, the final part of qualifying. And the bottom 5 is Joni Tormala, Daniele Haddad, Stahelek, Wilson Hughes and Samuel Bean. And Jack, is there anyone on that list of the bottom 5 that really shocks you?
I think Wilson Hughes probably would be the biggest shock for me. Wilson Hughes, he's been on such a great run of form, and he's been. I think that's the first time he's been knocked out of Q2 this season. So he'd be a little bit disappointed with that, because he was on a time that would have put him. It would have been probably 11th anyways, 11th or 12th. But Wilson Hughes not quite having the pace there. But again, it is so tight. 10th. Separating first down to 10th, and everyone from second down to 9th were all in the same 10th of a second. But Josh Idowu, how about that? 103.680 goes to the top for AlphaTauri. He's an F1 Esports pole sitter, so he's got pedigree in that regard. Nicholas Longe second, Blakely, Ronhar and Benham top 5. Interesting top 5, you have to say there. And of course, just to keep you all updated, Q3 coming up, and then there'll be a slight delay before we get into the race. We have to do a lobby restart for the next part, so we should make sure that everything runs smoothly. But really interesting qualifying right here. Q3 should be spicy.
Absolutely, and of course your top 10 is set at this point, but what order is that going to be in? Let us know in the live chat who you're going with for your pole position picks. And Jack, I will flip the question back over to you. Out of these 10 drivers in Q3, who's your pick for pole?
Well, right now, I'm going to go for a Nicholas Longe pole position this time, I think. I was going to go Barry, but I'm not quite sure this time. I think Longe might have a little bit in hand. Or maybe, just maybe, we could have one of the reserves clinch it once again. Josh Idowu impressing in Q2. Maybe he's got it in him to get another pole position.
Absolutely, as I'll bring you over to the game scene, and to anyone who's thinking about saying Jarno is getting pole position, just to reiterate one more time so that Jess doesn't have to do it all evening, Jarno Otmir is not racing with us today, and there's actually a poll gone up in the live chat consisting of Burmand, Idowu, Longe and Blakely. So those are your 4 options, but let us know and we'll get back to you very shortly. We're going to find out the answers to that question in just over 10 minutes time, as the 2 McLarens and the Ferrari of Donoso are the first 3 drivers out on circuit, and it seems like these 3 are eager to get going.
It's sort of been that way, really. I think there's some drivers who are very eager to have the first pick of clear air. So it's the 2 McLarens with Donoso sandwiched between them in this early phase of qualifying. Normally Brendan Lee likes to get, you remember having him out on the circuit every single time. It was Danny Berezne who always liked to come out first for the clean air. I think it was in Bahrain. He was always the first man out on the circuit, but now it's going to be one of the McLarens who brings us through, and it's Barry Borman who'll get us underway in Q3. The first banker times will come in. Do not expect these to be the fastest times. They're just to get a delta on the board and a time on the board and get the eye in, more importantly. So Barry Borman now on his first effort. We'll be able to maybe compare sectors. Well, Donoso's already about a 10th and a half off of him in the first sector already compared to Barry Borman. So Barry currently on a really solid effort for his banker time. But I think it's a little bit unusual that we haven't had Barry on pole position this season, especially after... I think he's regarded if you watch Brendan Lee's time, he's regarded as Mr. Qualifying, but hasn't had the pole position to his name just yet this season. Let's see if he can change that. The pole position so far this season has gone to Blakely and Ronhar, who have been the pole sitters so far this season. Let's see if we can get a third different pole sitter, or can we have somebody finally win from pole position, because that hasn't happened either this season either.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see in 36 laps time as Barry Burnham pulls into the pit lane. Donoso's going to complete his lap at 104.176. I doubt that is going to be the quickest time by the end of the session as more drivers are peeling out of the pit lane. Donoso's teammate Brendan Lee is on an out lap here, and then Josh Adobu's pulled out the pit lane. Alvaro Caraton as well, so we'll have to wait and see. But the register himself, Brendan Lee, he loves the spin on the way to the grid, and we saw that earlier on in qualifying, and I'd love to see it in PSGL. So if anyone can relay that message to Brendan, if it's all possible, can we see that again? Because I saw it on his TikTok page, I believe, and it was something quite special. But he's beginning up on his lap, and we'll see what can the Ferrari man do as in towards the first corner, keeping it towards the left-hand side and switching it over in towards the right, not taking too much curb on entry, but they're taking quite a lot on exit, and he's got a bad run out of that first corner, had to kick the back end out just to save the car, and through the first sector split, he's about a tenth off of what Barry Burman did through there, but it's still admirable at this point as opening up the DRS, he could catch some traffic as he heads down and towards the second sector.
Yeah, he's got 3 cars in front of him at the moment. He's got one of the Haas, which is Jake Burnham. You've got the Mercedes of Thomas Ronar, and you've got one of the Williams car, one of the Red Bulls, which is Freddie Rasmussen, who's currently coming through. It looks like he should be okay as he comes round the sector 2 towards the sector 2 split. 44.5 in the middle sector, gone quickest there. So again, getting the rear end, getting away from a little bit. So it is a banker effort from Brendan Lee so far. He knows that there will be time in this lap. As he comes round the final corner, then Jake Benham getting well out of his way on the right-hand side there. Round the last corner comes Brendan Lee on his banker time effort. What is it going to be for him? It's a 1:04.143, just in front of his teammate. Now we wait for the rest of the banker times to come in. Again, the lap is very, very short around here, so it won't take much time for drivers to set their times. But Barry Borman and Lucas Blakely, I've noticed, back out on their out laps, and those look like brand new soft tyres on those McLarens.
Absolutely, very excited to see how they get on as we're watching Adobu. 12% of you have voted this man in the poll for pole position, as he's 7 thousandths off the back of Brendan Lee. We've got one of the McLarens just beginning their second flying lap here. Of course, neither of them completed it. Let's see what Nicolas Longue has to say for himself as through the final corner, sliding through there, but he's taken that with pure aggression. He's lost time at the end of that. Alvaro Caraton comes up to the line, and that was not a fast time from him whatsoever, as we're watching for Freddie Rasmussen, the Iceman himself. He never shows any sign of emotion, and he crossed the line, and wow, that is a competitive banker lap from Freddie. A 1:04 flat, that's about a tenth quicker than what Brendan Lee's done. Jake Benham's not too far off it, with a 1 minute flat 0.72, so impressive times at this point coming out, but I'd imagine, Jack, that we are going to see much faster come the battle for pole.
Yeah, absolutely. Barry Borman currently quickest in the first sector. Blakely's not far off him in the first sector either. Barry again quickest in the middle sector now. Just trying to keep an eye and compare the times between himself and Blakely. They're so evenly matched. Let's see what Barry can muster as he comes down towards the last corner. Remember, Q2 time was a 1:03.68 was the fastest time. What is it for Barry in Q3? It's a 1:03.681, a thousandth slower than the time in Q2. There it is. Barry Borman currently the quickest. Lucas Blakely, his teammate, also on that fresh set of soft tyres around the final corner onto the power. Can he match his teammate? Can he beat his teammate? Comes to the line just behind 1:03.740, so a couple of hundredths separating them there. But Barry Borman 1:03.681, currently the fastest man in qualifying here at Austria. And again, McLaren 1-2.
That is truly sublime from Barry Burman there. The two McLarens on form tonight. That is incredible. We've got Fabrizio Donoso also on a push lap here, so he could possibly be looking to... Thomas Ronar out of nowhere taking pole position completely under my gaze, as I did not notice him on circuit as Donoso crossed the line. He's invalidated. How about that from the Dutchman, pole sitter last week in USA, and he could be looking to repeat himself, because what a time that is. A 1:03.667.
Yeah, Thomas Ronar likes to do that, doesn't he? He comes from absolutely nowhere to put a time on the board like that. 1:03.667. His pole time last time out came at he was the last car on the circuit and the very last attempt. So Thomas Ronar, provisional pole position. Can he go 2 poles in a row here at Austria? Can he make it 2-1 to the reserves in this season so far, just in front of Barry. 1 minute 3.681 for him. Josh Idlewood, I think he'll take some comfort though, because he knows he can go around about that pace as well. Donoso, again, he's on his in lap right now. He's invalidated his times. He'll have to come in again. But very interesting session. Caraton with not a representative time. Again, Longue, Donoso, all those guys not really representative times, but within the 1 minute 4s on those efforts. Rasmussen, again, these guys have not done laps on a new set of tyres just yet, so expect it to get very, very close. Roundabout now, all the time, the lull in proceedings, the calm before the storm, before the final runs of Q3. Now's your chance to get those final predictions in. Is it Ronhar? Is it Borman? Is it Blakely? Is it anyone else? Let us know, because you've only got a few seconds to tell us before it all gets very spicy.
Yeah, you have to lock in your predictions at this point. There's no going back at this time, as it all seems a bit quiet in the pit lane, but I can assure you that the minds of the drivers are going to be racing at this point, as it's going to be the Frenchman Nicolas Longue to blink first, currently on a 1 minute 4.242. He'll be the first man out on circuit on this outlap, and I do tip this man for a potential pole position. At this point, it is going to be a very tough ask when the likes of Ronhar and Burnham are both setting 1 minute 3.6s. We saw that as well from Josh Adowu in Q2. He currently sits in 7th position on the 1 minute 4.150. So the best is really yet to come towards the end of this qualifying session, as now, Jack, everyone's seemingly leaving the pits, and we are well and truly into the twilight era of this qualifying.
We certainly are, yeah. You can see everybody is coming out onto the circuit right now. Jake Burnham will be the last car to come out of the pit lane, and it's going to get very, very fun right now. The last runs of qualifying 3 here at Austria, and it is super tight. We've got drivers who haven't set times on new tyres just yet, but Nicolas Longue will be the man to get us underway here in Q3 for the first runs. Wants to make sure he doesn't catch traffic. He comes around the last corner, unleashes his Alfa Romeo towards turn 1. Q3 final runs are underway. Up towards turn 1 comes Nicolas Longue, then up towards the left-hand side, spotting the braking into turn 1 in 5th gear, back on the power nice and early, with the DRS open down towards turn 2, watching for the sector splits already, keeping an eye on how he's doing compared to the fastest man, Barry Borman. 15.937, that is the fastest in the first sector for Nicolas Longue, already on a great lap. Down towards turn 4 then he comes in the Alfa Romeo. He's got the Ferrari of one of the Ferraris behind him, which is Brendan Lee, who's on his time now as well, so everybody's going to get very, very close for comfort here. 15.937 in the first sector, 800s up on his best, runs very, very wide on the exit there, using all of the curve. Let's see if it costs him any time into sector 2. Turns into the left-hander, back on the power again he gets as he comes through the next sector. 44.2, he's nearly 4 tenths up on his best time so far with 104.242, so a big improvement inbound for Nicolas Longue. Will it be enough to steal pole position though is the question. For one of the Ferraris backed out of their lap right there. Coming around the last corner then, Nicolas Longue. What is it going to be for the freshly announced Alfa Romeo F1 Esports driver? Where can he go with this time? He goes to the top, 103.64 for Nicolas Longue in the final part of qualifying. Next up to cross the line, Barry Borman. He's up by half a tenth. He's up by. Here comes Borman then in the McLaren. Can he take his first pole position of the season, or will it be stolen off him again? Round the final corner comes Barry Borman. Can he keep the tie? He loses the rear and then invalidates it, so it won't be pole position for Barry Borman once over another week running. Can anybody else improve in this last part of qualifying? Fabrizio Donoso coming around the last corner then. He's on an improvement, coming to the line. Can Donoso steal it? He can't. P4 once again for the man who's finished 4th twice so far this season here in qualifying. Josh Idlewood with a brilliant effort goes to P5 for now. And we have another car across the line. Is Rasmussen. He doesn't quite get a lap in there. Nicolas Longue, though, currently the quickest man, but there's still time for more runs, Dan.
Absolutely, and one of those men is Lucas Blakely, beginning his final run in qualifying. I believe that Freddie Rasmussen is also pushing and is also up by 0.05 of a second in the first sector. We also have to watch out for Brendan Lee. There's plenty of drivers still to come as the clock has struck 0. That means no one else can begin a lap, and the first to complete their final runs in qualifying is Brendan Lee. How about this? He's up by 0.2 of a second. You'd expect that, considering he's on a 1 minute 4.1. So now through the final two corners for the Englishman in the Scuderia Ferrari team. His teammate at the moment in fourth position. Can he nestle himself ahead of his teammate as he's had a bad run through the final corner to cross the line? Can only manage to go 8th fastest. We can also have a check-in on Lucas Blakely, one of the men who was very much tipped for pole position. He's up on his previous best time through now the final two corners. Turn number 10, where he does not want to run wide out here. The Scotsman losing the back end ever so slightly, touching the grass, but across the line, he's lost that time. He's not going to be setting pole position in this session as Josh Adowu pulls into the pit lane. Thomas Ronhaar once again defies the odds and takes pole position out of absolutely nowhere.
Where's he done that from again? Thomas Ronhaar, 103.551, nearly a tenth faster than Nicolas Longuet. It's 2 pole positions in a row for the young star of the future, Thomas Ronhaar. Once again, pulling it out of the bag. There's one Dutch driver who is once again a brilliant qualifier and a brilliant racer. We might find another one in a Mercedes. Thomas Ronhaar, for the second week in a row, takes pole position, and it is 2-1 to the reserves versus the full-time drivers in PSGL. Thomas Ronhaar, what a stunning lap from the Dutchman. He starts on pole position. Nicolas Longuet alongside him on the front row, and Barry Burnham in behind. What a time it is for Thomas Ronhaar, and he's taken 2 pole positions from 3 rounds. Very impressive.
Yeah, what a star this driver is shaping up to be. He takes pole position by 900 ahead of his nearest rival and around such a short circuit like this one that is almost unfathomable. It is Thomas Ronhaar, of course, on pole position. Nicolas Longuet starts alongside him on the front row. Barry Burnham in 3rd position. 4th belongs to Fabrizio Donoso. Josh Adowu in 5th. Alvaro Carreton starts alongside him. Lucas Blakely let it all go away from him, unfortunately, towards the end of his lap. He starts in 7th alongside Freddie Rasmussen, and the last 2 drivers in the top 10 fight for pole position was Brendan Lee and Jake Burnham. But how about that for a qualifying session, Jack?
Unbelievable. It's so we expected it. I actually expected it to be a little bit tighter. 900s around Austria is a huge margin for Thomas Ronhaar to have going into the race. Of course, do remember, of course, we are in the process of getting another lobby underway for this next part. So stick with us while that's sorted out in the background. But Thomas Ronhaar will be certainly starting on pole position. Nicolas Longuet in 2nd, and Barry Burnham once again starting from 3rd position. But I reiterate the stat, and nobody's won from pole this season. Can Thomas Ronhaar make it the exception this time? Can he break it? Can he take a victory in this Austrian round? Now, he's got the track position, of course, but remember, Austria probably the easiest track to overtake on, but we haven't seen it with these new cars yet, so we'll see. It'll be interesting to see how it gets on.
Yeah, of course, there are 3 DRS zones back to back down in towards turn number 1, 3 and 4. That means there's plenty of opportunities for overtakes around this circuit, and Thomas Ronhaar's position is not secure by any means, but still, what a star he is really shaping up to be. And I'm seeing a lot of tips that he's the next Jan Ortmir. I don't agree with that. I think Jan Ortmir's got his legacy. Thomas Ronhaar is building his own foundation, and I am so excited to see what this Dutch star can do in the future.
It seems to be a thing, isn't it? It's a Dutch driver in a Mercedes. Something happens when you put him in. But then again, he got pole in an Alfa Romeo last week, so it doesn't matter what car you put him in. It's even that there are equal cars, of course, but it seems to be the little Dutch thing with Mercedes, and but it is something there, Dan. It's a little something Dutch, because remember, Jarno was Alfa Romeo and then went to Mercedes. You put a Dutch driver in an Alfa Romeo or a Mercedes, and suddenly the pace comes. Let's see, have we found something maybe?
Yeah, well, I mean, we might need to get Thomas Ronhaar in an Alpine just to test out, because of course Jarno was a part of the Renault team, I believe, when he debuted. So maybe we can test that out next week if Big C wants to take any notes, and then we can create sort of some Dutch talent factory. So yeah, Thomas Ronhaar, again, to reiterate, what a driver he is at this point. But of course, there are other drivers we do need to talk about, and I think there's one who's unfortunately gone a bit under the radar in qualifying, and that's Lucas Blakely, and I certainly would have thought he'd have been higher up in the session. Yeah,
absolutely. So from what I can see, so far. I'm not sure if we go straight. Well, obviously the lobby hasn't been updated yet. I was quite a little bit confused when I saw one shot qualifying at Bahrain. So I had a bit of a moment there. So yeah, we'll wait and see. But we're just resetting up the lobby. Of course, we had some slight desync issues, so we're setting that up, and that also means, Dan, we can get Simon Weigang in. So Simon is in. So we can have a full grid of drivers here as well. So looking forward to see how Simon gets on. He obviously didn't have the greatest of drives last time out, but again, he said himself he's struggling for pace on this game. So hopefully he'll be able to maybe turn things around today. But of course, he hasn't had the benefit of doing qualifying, so we know he'll be starting at the back of the grid. See if he can make something of that. And as well, Danny Berezne's in now. So Danny has managed to come in. So Danny Berezne will also start down the back as well. So interested to see how those two get on from the back of the grid. So we're now getting our drivers slowly to come in, but we now know we'll have Simon Weigang and Danny Berezne starting down the back of the field. So it'll be interesting to see how they get on from down there.
It's going to be a lost, a question mark challenge for those drivers. If I suppose, where's Danny Berezne gone? I think he might have just disappeared out of the lobby. I don't know if we are getting him. And of course, there was a space available for Simon. We only had 19 drivers in qualifying, so it'd be good to see where the Aston Martin driver can find himself. And of course, he's not a driver we typically see being eliminated in Q1, so he's going to be around some competition he might not normally see along a race circuit, and that means for all the more action for this driver. But 36 laps around Austria. Jack, what can we say about this track?
Yeah, I think it's going to provide for a really interesting strategy race as well, because the lap is so short. It's crucial if you come in for an undercut that you don't get caught in traffic around here, because it can cost you so much time around here. So again, like we've seen undercuts work, we've seen overcuts work this season at different tracks. So interesting to see what the call is going to be this time. Don't expect too much variation in strategies, as we've seen through as a recurring theme throughout this season. Expect the first half of the race to be sort of a DRS train, but expect it to kick off after we go into the pit stops, because that's what happened at Bahrain.
Yeah, and of course, towards the end of pretty much every Austrian Grand Prix, there have been fireworks. I'll bring you all back to season 29, almost a year ago at this point, where of course Jarno Opmeer had a collision with Danny Moreno. That clip ended up blowing up. That was at Austria turn number 3, and then just a season after, in season 30, there was contact between, I believe, Burnham and Burnham, which ended up with Jarno taking the win again at turn number 3 on the final lap of the race. There seems to be a sort of recurring theme, if you get me here. So maybe towards the end of the race, sparks are going to fly and drivers going to make some mistakes, and hopefully hopefully it doesn't happen. But if it does, we're ensured some good action.
Absolutely, we are indeed. So all drivers are now in the lobby as far as we can see. So we'll be getting underway for the race in a few moments' time. Stick with us and make sure to subscribe to the PSGL YouTube channel while you're here as well, as we have recently hit a big milestone of 20,000 subscribers, and to see so much of you enjoying the racing around here is great to see, as well as we get ready to go in just a few moments' time. But race winners so far this season: Barry Borman in Bahrain and Jarno Opmeer in Pota. Let's see, maybe can we add a new name to the top of the list? Can Ronhar get a win here in this season, or will somebody else topple it? It'll be interesting to see if we can get another race winner under our belt. We've had Ronhar and Blakely have pole position, but none of them have managed to convert it so far this season, as I've mentioned. So let's see if anybody can manage it. Let's see if we can break the stats in this race, and let's see if we can have. I'm sure we're going to be in for a brilliant race so far. Everybody's in the lobby as far as we can see. We're just waiting for them to ready up now, really.
Absolutely, of course, Louis Welch, our lobby host for today, has got to set up the grid and make sure everyone is in the correct positions. And I'm going to turn the attention to the live chat at the moment. Hopefully everyone is enjoying today, and I hope you're having a good time. Make sure as well you follow us on Twitter at PremierSimGR. I believe that the tag is the same for Instagram too, and if you want, join our Discord link, which should be in the description, and then you can get involved in some PSGL action once the mid-season sign-ups open again. But I suppose I normally ask this on the formation lap, but since we've got a little bit of time, and this is for everyone here, who is going to win this race? And Jack, I'll let you answer first.
It's I actually don't know. It's really it's none of my predictions have been correct so far this season for a race win. I think that goes to show you how close the racing has been. It's impossible to predict who's going to win it. So it's hard to call. I think this time though, without trying to curse him, I think Ronar might just do it this time. Hold on to the win this time. I think he had the unfortunate issue of having a wet race after he pulled off a great qualifying. So now that he's got a dry race, maybe I think he could convert it this time.
Absolutely, and I'm just looking in the live chat now. We've got Texarak saying Rasmussen, Cameron Dowd is saying Lucas Blakely for a mad comeback. Who have we else got here? We've got I'm sorry, I can't say your name, but he's saying Lee for the win. That is I believe that's Welsh there, so I personally don't speak it. Lud Johansson is saying Blakely. Is Coopy is saying Brendan Lee. VSR Jack has gone for Simon Viagang. Very ambitious there. I'm seeing calls for Jarno. He's not racing tonight, currently in Abu Dhabi. Got shouts for Josh Adowu, shouts for Ron Haas. So many different drivers being tipped to win this race. And that's the beauty of PSGL PC F1, of course, Jack. Just how close this grid is.
Yeah, it is the tightest grid on the calendar, basically ever in league racing, and it's F1 esports outside of F1 esports, if you want to put it like that. And it's a chance, I suppose, for guys like Ronar and guys who aren't full-time F1 esports to show what they can do against the very best of the best on the F1 esports grid. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this goes. We're still waiting for them to ready up. Not exactly sure what's going on at the moment, but we're waiting for them to start. We're sat in the lobby right now, just waiting for things to start. But we're currently we have to change it to desync, so I'm not sure if we've had another issue that way. But do stick with us in the meantime while we wait for things to get underway. But again, as we come into the championship, of course, you missed the championship standings. Currently, is Barry Borman leading the championship on 28 points. Otmir in second on 18, and then just behind them is Fabrizio Donoso on 16 points. So Otmir, of course, not racing tonight. He's on 18 points. Donoso on 16 points. So Barry's championship advantage is now 12 points. With that advantage, of course, different point system here at PSGL. 16 for a win, 12 for second. So you can see Barry, who has got quite a substantial lead, has a chance to open it out tonight. But for Fabrizio Donoso, you have to say, very consistent. 2 fourth places so far this season. 16 points to his name. Has a chance to secure himself second in the championship or get a nice buffer for second in the championship if he can carry on his consistency. Drivers have finally decided to ready up. We're getting ready in just a few moments' time, but keep an eye on Fabrizio Donoso today, I think.
Absolutely, of course, some big names missing today, so that means there's big opportunities for the likes of Burnham and Donoso to get themselves in the fight, and of course Burnham to extend his championship lead, which he's already got a tight grip around, and he's doing very well for himself so far this season, of course, winning the first race. And we are about to get ready to get underway around this 36 lap race. I believe it's 4.318 kilometers long in length. Hopefully that is right. We're just waiting for all the drivers to get their tyre choices selected, but I believe that we'll get into the action in just a moment time. But of course, we're going to have a quick word from our sponsors at GT Omega. Welcome back, everybody, to coverage of the PSGL PC F1 Austrian Grand Prix coverage. Of course, round number 3 of this championship. All the drivers in the pit lane at the moment and on the grid, of course, getting their strategies locked in. And it is looking like lovely, clear blue skies. An opposite of what we saw at the end of qualifying there, Jack, surely.
Yeah, it is, and I think I think the drivers will be happy to see a full dry race here at Austria. So again, it doesn't mean that we have drivers panicking early on in the last race in Kota, where it changes to wet conditions, and you had some drivers going for inters and some going for wets. So I think it's going to be pretty bog standard across the board. Expect plenty of just majority soft tyres across the board, and not soft tire, mediums, starting on the mediums and going to the soft tires towards the end. Maybe some drivers will switch up, go soft to medium. We'll wait and see what happens there. But 20 seconds until we get the formation lap underway, and we'll see if the message has been relayed to Brendan Lee to give us some 360s before he gets into his grid slot. We'll wait and see if that works or not. But we're going to get underway in just a few moments' time. Ronhaar starts from pole. For those of you who missed qualifying, Thomas Ronhaar's second pole position in a row this season. Alongside him on the front row is the Frenchman Nicolas Longray, freshly announced to Alfa Romeo F1 Esports just today. And then behind him is the championship leader Barry Burnham, just in behind for Britain, and also starting from his favourite place, Danfield, fourth.
Yeah, absolutely. He seems to have fallen in love with the number 4, and I wouldn't be surprised if Lando Norris was his favourite driver. But let's have a quick look at the tyre compound that everyone has chosen. And, well, I mean, you don't get more bog standard than this, than all 20 drivers being on a set of a hard compound tyre. You can see at the bottom of your screens there, the predicted pit strategy is suggesting a one-stop race from the hard compound tyres to the mediums, which I think is what everyone is planning to do here. But of course, this is league racing and nothing ever goes completely to plan, so I'd imagine that we're going to see some drivers mixing it up today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's. I do find it funny sometimes seeing all the drivers on this exact same compound of tyre with this new tyre on the hard. Nobody has decided to go for anything or try anything different today. So, well, again, maybe some drivers might decide to pit earlier, like you mentioned. Some variations in the hard compound tyre strategy. Won't expect too much, but now, of course, that does mean that maybe the first part of the race may be slightly, quote-unquote, dull for the first part as drivers save tyres and try to get these tyres as far as they can before they switch on to another set of tyres. So, but again, that won't be in the mind of Thomas Ronhaar just yet. He needs to make sure he gets a good start heading up towards the line then in this, of course, manual grid lineup for this season as well. Simon Weigang is the last car who's going to come around the final corner to get himself set on the grid. I'm just watching to see, and Brendan Lee, it has got to him. 360s on the grid. Thank you very much, Brendan Lee.
The gantry blocked it. I don't believe it. The F122 gantry blocked Brendan Lee's signature move, but we just managed to get a nice onboard towards the end. Brendan Lee pulling off as always. We're just waiting for the final car, Simon Weigang, to pull into his grid slot as it all falls silent on the grid. The engines begin to roar as we got 5 red lights here in Austria. And we are underway, and it looks to be a great start for Nicolas Longay. He's going to be challenging in towards the first corner and getting a slight nose ahead. He's got the inside line headed in towards turn number 1. Can he pull out ahead of Thomas Ronhaar? He slams the door on him as Ronhaar begins to lead this race. Here comes Barry, headed in towards the second corner and climbing up the hill. He's got a tyre alongside the rear of Nicolas Longay, and he's going to look to the inside line, headed into the third corner. But then the Frenchman looks to the outside of Thomas Ronhaar as it's Owen Blakely swapping positions further back behind now. It's the downhill run towards turn number 4 as we got some more contact further back behind. Here's Josh Idowu to the inside of Fabrizio Donoso, and he could look to the inside of Barry Burnham. Slight bit of contact between the pair of them, but now the Welshman tries to find the move, doesn't quite work out. Other than that collision between Samuel Bean and another driver, Jack, it has been mighty clean at the start here.
Yeah, Lewis was facing the wrong way earlier on as Brendan Lee Carreton get very close for comfort around the next part of the lap, but all clean. Ronhaar getting away. He didn't get the best launch, but he managed to hold the inside and keep in front of Nicolas Longay. Longay now just backing off and happy to sit behind. Donoso, though, getting passed by Josh Idowu as he came round the next part of lap of turn number 3 and 4. That time, Brendan Lee settling into 6th. Carreton 7th. Blakely down to 8th. Jake Benham in 9th. And Stakelek in P10 as they all file now into the train for this next phase of the Grand Prix, and now it'll be pure tyre saving. Tormola already picking up three warnings, or maybe a double warning somewhere, already getting a 3-second time penalty for his troubles as they file down. Blakely gonna go for the move on Carreton to the inside at turn 3 and behind as well. It's getting a very, very tight as the couple of places lost for Daniele Haddad. Carreton not quite able to hold it. He's trying to hang on there as Benham looking for the move as well. Rasmussen got the move done on Stakelek there as he came into turn 3, so they all filed through, but Blakely not quite able to get past Alvaro Carreton that time around the next part of the corner. He's looking for the move though as he comes into turn number 5, not quite able to do it. He's almost pushing Carreton through, trying to make these tyres work early on. Benham stuck behind as well, but Rasmussen now into the points, making the move past Peter Stakelek in turn 3.
Yeah, we're just seeing Lucas Blakely be as racy as possible at the beginning of this Grand Prix as they're going to file in towards now the third lap, and this is where the complexion of the race begins to change ever so slightly because, of course, DRS will be enabled, and all the drivers on this grid, aside from Ronhaar and Welch, are going to reap the rewards of DRS, but who is going to make the most of it as they file on towards this straight? DRS wide open for the 18 car train at this point, but I don't believe, just being in this DRS train, that anyone is going to be able to make an overtake at this point. Wilson Hughes has found an opportunity on Daniele Haddad as he goes around the outside and towards turn number 3. Hughes has fallen way down the order, down in 17th place, and he's managed to hold on to that one as we look towards the front of the order. Longue getting close to the rear of Thomas Ronhaar, to no avail at this point. And Jack, I'm going to notice that this is sort of going to become a recurring theme in this Grand Prix, I'd say.
Yeah, I think Longue will be happy to sit where he is right now. Ronhaar is obviously punching a hole in the air for him, and to give him a Longue chance to save ERS first of all and tyres as well. So there's no need for him to be aggressive too early on in this race. And Ronhaar as well, you can expect him to be in full management mode as well in this early phase of the race. So not too much to be expected before we see drivers come into the pit lane. It could get a little bit racy towards the end. Barry Burnham did have the fastest lap, but that's taken off him by Brendan Lee momentarily, who sat behind behind his teammate Britto Leno. So Blakely is still super close to Caraton. He wants to make the move here. Here comes Blakely on Caraton, then using the battery on the inside towards turn 3. He's desperate to make it work early on. Up the inside goes Lucas Blakely and Alvaro Caraton. Caraton leaves the room on the inside, and Blakely up to P7. But you can see he's used up a lot of battery. Caraton's also used a lot of battery in that battle as well compared to the cars in front. So, but the benefit is Blakely is still in the DRS, of Brendan Lee in front can just start to use that to keep himself in the train as Longue just starts to maybe just puts a little bit of pressure on the front of Thomas Ronhaar, maybe force him into an error, but I think he's happy to stay where he is right now.
Absolutely. I don't imagine that Longue wants to push too hard at the moment. He's got 100% of his battery, as does Thomas Ronhaar, so no one at this point is trying to push too hard, aside from Lucas Blakely, who did manage to make that move, and of course following in the slipstream and DRS of all the other drivers, he's going to be able to recuperate that battery charge very quickly. But headed on to lap number 5, let's have a quick look at the position change at this point, and it is Brendan Lee, Matthijs van Erven. Those two have moved up the best, so I'd imagine that Lee's tyre warming tactic, seemingly, Jack, is what brings him up the most positions, so that might be the new meta on the F1 games.
And I'm all for it. I've seen 360s before the formation lap, honestly, or during the formation lap. But Brendan Lee's pioneered it, so if it does become the meta, you can say that Brendan Lee started it. So it's good to see him now. He's making his way up the order behind his teammate comfortably. But you have to say Blakely's pushing early on, isn't he? He's closed up to Brendan Lee, and I'm wondering whether he decides to make positions early on. Does he want track position, or does he want to look after the tyre? Because right now it doesn't look like he's tyre managing, but again, he's made that move, got in front of Caraton. Maybe he feels now he is where he wants to be, behind Brendan Lee, behind Fabrizio De Nosa, behind the Ferraris, but ideally he want to be up near his teammate Barry Burnham, who's also quite close to the rear of Nicholas Longue. Josh Odo having a really good run so far, P4 for him currently, and comfortably sat in behind championship leader Barry Burnham. Across the line now to begin lap number 6. The laps really do fly by here around Austria as they begin another lap around the Spielberg circuit. Longue very close to Ronhaar, but I can't expect him to make a move yet, not using any battery, just staying in the DRS as he comes up towards turn 3, and you'll see him maybe just decide to again back off as they come into the corner. Gonna just sit right behind and keep on punching, or allowing Ronhaar to punch a hole in the air and keep the tyre wear under control for now as they come down towards the next corner. Well, I'm going to eat my words. Here comes Nicholas Longue down towards the next part of the corner, slipstreaming by in DRS. A little bit of overtake, and Nicholas Longue leads the Austrian Grand Prix. Yeah, Thomas Ronhaar did not want to fight that one too hard, as we've seen Longue's teammate Louis Welch go for a spin down at turn number 3, but Ronhaar did not want to give. Sorry, quite the opposite. He wanted to give that one up. He doesn't want to lead for too long, and he could save some tyres by following in the wheel tracks of Nicholas Longue. Barry Burnham still sitting pretty in P3, just watching the two in front. He's got the best seat in the house, so I don't blame him for wanting to sit back and enjoy this battle. But still, as we fly on towards lap number 7 of this race, we still have 19 drivers following in one train at this point. You do not get closer competition than PSGL PC F1, and if you want to see more action, make sure you subscribe to the PSGL YouTube channel. We have
races weekly every Wednesday at 7 p.m. as Barry Burnham almost had a half look at going for the move on oh dear. Yeah, I've just noticed that one there. I think Idowu was tapped from behind and he's been sent into a bit of a half spin down into 8th position now.
It's reminiscent of the incident that Wilson Hughes suffered at Bahrain, isn't it? As now the Ferraris are starting to get under pressure from Lucas Blakely as a result of that. So Donoso now has absolutely no DRS to the cars in front. He now needs to use that battery to get back up to the rear. Barry Borman, he's going to be super vulnerable. It's Blakely's chance to pounce. Real shame for Josh Idowu there as he got turned around at turn 3. And he's now, unfortunately, dropped down to P9, so he was on a good run, but maybe he can recover here. Donoso, desperate to get back in DRS range of the cars in front. He can't afford to lose DRS around Austria. Around the last corner now, trying to dip under the second mark. He used up nearly half of his battery to get in there. I'm not quite sure he has just about got it as he came around the last corner there. So I think Brendan Lee had it on him, but Donoso will have it for the next part of the lap where he sees he had a charge of 80%, now is down to 37% as a result of having to get into the DRS of the cars in front. But as you can see, that incident has caused a little bit of trouble for the guys behind there as they all filed through. But Donoso and Brendan Lee came under attack from Blakely but managed to defend it nicely.
Absolutely. Lucas Blakely, arguably just the most racy at this point on circuit, and he's still not been able to charge up much of the battery because he's getting a bit greedy and getting a bit ahead of himself. Still to no avail aside from the move that he made on Alvaro Carreton. Of course, he was able to overtake Idowu once he was going slow off the exit of turn number 3. I believe he was tapped from behind by Fabrizio Donoso. It would have been really unfortunate for the Welshman, but he's still in the train, still in this race. He's got naught to worry about at this point. He's just got to keep his head down and keep on going as we're about to reach the next lap by will be a quarter of the way through in this race, and so far our only 2 leaders have been Longuet and Ronhard. These 2 seemingly in control, but Barry Burman still watching from the shadows, not wanting to push too hard at this point because he cannot win the race on lap number 9. He can only win it on lap number 36. The final lap of the Grand Prix is headed in towards turn number 3 once again. It doesn't seem like anyone wants to make a move at this point.
No, not right now. Barry had a half look to the inside there, but again, he's probably just coming out of the slipstream to make sure he doesn't go for the move. He's on the attack on Ronar. Those that come down towards turn 4. Again, a little just shimmy to the inside, just making sure that Ronar knows he's there. And Donoso now just back in full conservation mode, trying to get the charge of the battery that he lost back into that battery. So lap 9 of 36, Longuet leads the Austrian Grand Prix. Ronar runs in 2nd. And Barry Borman runs in 3rd place. Championship leader, of course, all he wants is points. And, well, really what Donoso needs is to finish in front of him to start closing the gap in the championship to him. So Donoso sat behind what is really now a champion. Of course, Donoso is a championship contender, even if it is in this early phase. 16 points to Barry's 28, 12 points off the rear. So outscoring of Barry could certainly get himself into a really tight contention, even if it is early days in that so far. Down towards the next corner they come once again in the big long 19-car train from 1st down to 19th. Lewis Welch just had an issue on lap number 1, has dropped down to the tail end of the field, 10 seconds off the rear. No changes at all so far as the drivers conserve tyres, conserve the battery, and it'll all kick off as they come into the last phase of the race. Yanni Tormel and Marcel Kiefer is going to give us some entertainment though. Marcel Kiefer, of course, he started way down the order and he's going to slipstream his way past the AlphaTauri of Yanni Tormel, and he's up to 15th place. So again, Marcel Kiefer knocked out in Q1, has a mountain to climb if he wants to get himself back into the points again.
Yeah, very difficult, of course, to overtake when you're in a DRS train, but Marcel Kiefer, he's found a way to make it work, and fair play to him. He is now up into 15th place in this Grand Prix, as now we're headed down towards lap number 11. These hard tyres that the entire field is running, they will still be in a great condition as Longuet once again completes a lap in the lead. I saw earlier on in towards turn number 4 that Lucas Blakely was using a little bit of the battery. I think he wants to try and get by on Brendan Lee sooner rather than later, but it is just so difficult in a DRS train, and I doubt that we're going to see too many overtakes before the pit stop phases actually come out, and drivers just sort of getting into their rhythm in this race. But all it takes, Jack, is one mistake, one slight slip up for everything to unravel in this Grand Prix. So hold your breath, everyone, because it can still get very, very exciting.
Yeah, because if you think about it, if you get run into the grass, you've got the potential, if you're running in the lead, to drop down to like 19th, because everybody is still within the same piece of circuit, really, down to Daniele Haddad, who runs in 19th. So there's a lot at stake here in Austria with the humongous DRS train that it does provide anyway. But of course, the DRS not being as effective in these cars, it provides for some interesting moments like this of 19-car trains with nobody wanting to go for an overtake or not able to go for an overtake. The only car that doesn't have DRS really is Nicholas Longa and Lewis. The only cars that don't have it are the Nicholas Longa and Lewis Welch. Though Ron Arst sitting comfortably in second, not using any battery. Nobody's being too aggressive. Maybe, the man I think who maybe thought about it for a moment was Jake Burnham, using the battery with Caraton, defending it by using his battery up towards turn 3, so no move on for him. Lap 12 of 36. There's still plenty of time in this race. Blakely using a good chunk of battery, as you mentioned, out of turn 3, but again, it's just not enough to close up to the back of Brendan Lee that time. But it is great to see how close they are, because it shows you how tight everyone is overall, so evenly matched. And like you mentioned, one error, one slip up will give you a huge disadvantage, losing you all the way down to 19th. There's the potential that you've got to lose as well, but it shows you the skill level. Everyone is just so evenly matched in equal cars.
And you could be fast over the course of one lap, but you have to be consistent, like these F1 esports drivers or F1 esports caliber drivers, because this has been 13 laps, all following in a train and all setting pretty much the exact same lap times as one another, and you just don't get that in any other league racing scene. As they file along to lap number 13, we saw into turn number 4, both Blakely and Burnham had a think about going for a move. Neither of them actually came off in the end, but it just shows that they have a little bit of fight in them. They don't want to follow in this train forever, and that could be some signs that battles could be occurring very, very soon as they head down in towards Schloss Gold, turn number 4. Very tricky to get the corner completely right, but again, these F1 esports drivers, they just don't make mistakes into corners like that, as headed in towards the final sector. I'd imagine though, at this point, Longa, he's not going to be too happy about leading for so long, and maybe he's going to try and usher Thomas Ronhaar back through.
Yeah, as well, but I suppose we've got to take into account Longa made the decision to go to take the lead, so he feels like he's got a little bit more pace than Ronhaar, but again, he's given the opportunity to Ronhaar to sit behind, and again, you could kind of see Barry getting quite close to Ronhaar through the last corner as well, again, using a little bit of battery as they came through. They're absolutely front wing to rear wing, nose to tail as they came through the final corner, so Barry using quite a chunk of battery there. Ronhaar, though, going to go for the swap here, as you mentioned. So maybe he heard you there, Dan. Up the inside goes Thomas Ronhaar to retake the lead of the Austrian Grand Prix. He fancies to lead for a little bit. Rasmussen making the move on Josh Adomu as well for P9. He slots through and moves up into 9th place, does the Dane. And Barry Borman fancies maybe a move here. He looks to the inside. Longa defends the inside at turn 4. Now it's starting to get interesting up the front. He felt he had to defend. He didn't want to let Borman through. He wanted to let Ronhaar through, but he's certainly not going to let the current championship leader get through so easily. So Ronhaar back to the front, and Longa came under attack again, but Barry, again, very sensible, sitting behind for now, and Donoso sitting and watching and waiting in the wings for anything that might happen. Brendan Lee a little bit further off at the back of his teammate, and Blakely very much keeping him honest there as they came around the last corner. But again, coming on to lap number 15, it's now Ronhaar back to the lead of the Austrian Grand Prix.
Absolutely, our pole sitter today 2 times so far this season, of course taking pole last week at Kota, and taking pole tonight here in Austria, but can he convert it to a win? There has not been a single win from pole position so far this season, but maybe Ronhaar could be the one to break that streak, or maybe Longa is the one to preserve it. We'll just have to wait and see, as Blakely once again gets close to the rear of Brendan Lee, as he has done so often in this race, and just he really wants to go for a move. I think he's all for getting rid of DRS, because of course he's just sitting in this train. It's so difficult to overtake in these conditions. As lap number 15 of 36, we are nearing the halfway point, and some drivers might think about an early pit stop. Not at this point, but maybe in about 4 or 5 laps time is when I'm expecting the drivers to start peeling into the pit lane to fit on a set of the medium compounder tyres and try to go to the end on that set.
Yes, we've still got a little ways to go before we see that. We haven't quite reached half distance yet in this Grand Prix, and a few few laps time we will reach that. Lap 18 will be the half distance for that, and Brendan Lee getting up close and personal with his teammate into turn 1. Had a look to the inside. I think Brendan might have fancied a move, but loses the rear end, and he'll be under attack from Lucas Blakely now for sure. Blakely would have seen that in the slipstream. Brendan Lee using his battery to stay in front. Does Blakely go for the move? He's just having to think about it on the inside, not quite able to do it. Denoso goes a little bit wide. It all checks up, gets a concertina effect, happens through there, and they all lose a bit of time in the end. Denoso actually went wide. I think he nearly went into the back of Burnham there as they came through, but no moves made overall, despite the little scary moment there. Rasmussen was close to making a move on Jake Burnham, but wasn't quite able to do it. So it all settles back into normal capacity for now, but as you can see, that was the one mistake that nearly caused a massive chain reaction. Brendan Lee just having one little oversteer moment through turn 1, and it very nearly ended with him losing quite a lot of places.
Yeah, and it shows how opportunistic these F1 esports drivers are. When they notice a slight weakness in their rivals, they're going to pounce on that and leave nothing on the table. Of course, to no avail at this point, but it is lovely to see that we are finally getting to see some battling as Marcel Kiefer and Wilson Hughes, the first two to come into the pit lane. Very interesting call from the pair of them. Will be doing more laps on a set of the mediums than they will the hard, but of course lighter fuel loads mean they can go to the end. Here comes Longuet though, making another move for the lead of the Grand Prix, and finally we're seeing some battling as Josh Adobo as well clearing Freddie Rasmussen. These two have been swapping positions for a number of laps, but the Frenchman back into the lead of the Austrian Grand Prix. Thomas Ronhard once again did not really fight that one too hard. It seems to be a common characteristic in this race that they're not scrapping as hard as they can at this point, so they're just biding their time, waiting for the pit stop phase to possibly come. But finally, Jack, finally we're getting some action.
Yeah, Marcel Kiefer and Wilson Hughes deciding to make things a little bit, make it interesting. Come into the pits to fit a set of medium tyres on. So Kiefer and Hughes the first to blink onto a new set of tyres. And trying to see if anybody else up front is going to make a call to come in. Yes, Lucas Blakely has blinked and is coming in. Jake Burnham as well going to follow him through. So Blakely the first to blink out of the train up front. Let's see if this works out for him. That's responding to Kiefer and Hughes. And remember how tight it is overall. Weigand with the fastest lap on the hard tyres. There's a big train of cars now. Blakely, Rasmussen, Stakelek, Bain, they're all into the pit lane now, and they're watching for Marcel Kiefer and Wilson Hughes. Again, Kiefer and Hughes, they have got a bit of traffic in Lewis Welch, who is now, he is still in position of course, but he's obviously went off on lap number 1. They're on the way to the pit lane right now, so the undercut is not going to quite work for Kiefer, but again, he's quite close to Stakelek overall, and of course he will have the tyre temperature as well, and he'll have the DRS from Lewis Welch as well as they come up towards turn 3. They're desperately trying to get temperature in the tyres. Kiefer not going to quite able to do it though. He comes out behind Stakelek, and they will manage to hang on for now. You would imagine Rasmussen holding on to that position as well, but you can see it's got very, very tight overall as now you can see Kiefer's on the attack. He wants to make the move while he still can. Down towards turn 4, looks to the inside, swaps to the inside. Kiefer looks on Stakelek. There's contact. There wasn't room, but he gets back on the power again. Stakelek left him just enough room. They're banging tyres coming towards turn 5. Round the outside goes Kiefer. Stakelek holds his head on a switchback line from Kiefer up the inside into turn 6, side by side through turn 6. Stakelek has run out of room, and Stakelek hangs on the outside. Brilliant fight, but that would have cost them a lot of time. But again, Stakelek defends brilliantly against Marcel Kiefer.
Good hard racing is what we love in PSGL, and that was fantastic to watch. Meanwhile, other drivers have come into the pit lane, and Lucas Blakely, look at that, he's going to be able to jump Fabrizio Donoso. The undercut has worked out, and Jake Burnham has got by on the Chilean driver as well, so surely that's going to leave Longuet, Ronhard and Burnham vulnerable. But Fabrizio Donoso, he's not going to take it lying down as he looks towards the outside line on Jake Burnham. With the colder tyres, it's not quite so easy to make that move up, as he has to settle down and where he is at this point. So the leaders are going to lose some time, as Freddie Rasmussen and I believe Josh Adowu having the scrap that is all too familiar. Patrick Saipos as well fighting with Piotr Stahelek. So much going on as we've seen Longuet, Burnham and Brendan Lee now all peel off into the pit. And if the undercut has well and truly worked, I believe Lucas Blakely is going to be leading this race.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty tight, but Blakely might have pulled this off Jake Burnham as well. Don't forget, he's worked his way up to right behind Lucas Blakely, and he's in a good position now. Barry Borman on his way out, Longay on his way out of the pit lane now as well. Watch for Blakely as they come up towards turn one. Remember the tyre temperature factor here, and I think Blakely's going to do it. There he goes, past his teammate, and there's Longay on the inside as well. Jake Burnham has worked his way back up into a net P2 here. Jake Burnham is in with a chance, and Lucas Blakely takes the net race lead. Jake Burnham now in second, Longay down to third. Donoso now in behind in his favourite place of net P4 and jumps Barry Borman in that car as well. Caraton's on the attack as well, and Barry Borman behind. Look at this from the Spanish driver. Does he have enough? No, he doesn't have enough battery to defend with or go on the attack with, and he will come out behind. But Donoso, that's a crucial move championship wise, Dan, because again he needs to outscore Borman to keep himself in the title fight here.
Of course, and we called it, didn't we, from early doors, that the pit stops is where everything is going to start to kick off as Ronhart finally comes into the pits. I'd imagine that Haddad and Tormala are going to follow him in, as well as Donoso is still looking onto the rear of Nicolas Longay. He's got the slightly more worn tyres, he's got a little bit more temperature in them, and he could use that to his advantage. The DRS is going to make it very difficult to overtake, given the fact that Longay has also got that advantage as well as they fly towards turn number one. Blakely peeling out of turn number one. Ronhart coming out of the pit lane. Where's he going to emerge? Is he going to be ahead of Longay? He's going to come out behind. He's not got DRS, as here comes Donoso as well. He's going to get past Ronhart. Can he get by on Longay? The Frenchman defending to the inside. Chilean has to look to the outside. Former teammates now looking to draw swords on each other, as Ronhart having a half look in here. Burham as well involved in the scrap, and he's going to try and make the move on the Mercedes driver towards the outside line in towards turn number 4. Ronhart could be boxed in here as the Iranian gets on by Thomas Ronhart. He's come out worse than all of the pit stops that have occurred, from first now down into 6th position.
And that's all it took, was pit stop phases. That's what made it work for Lucas Blakely, who blinked early on, as did Jake Bennett, who now runs net P2. But now it is all a case about tyre wear. Who looks after them the best? Ronhart's got the freshest tyres of anybody, so let's see if that works to his favour later on. But Lucas Blakely leads the Grand Prix out front. Jake Benham second, Nicolas Longay runs third, Donoso fourth, Barry Borman fifth, Ronhart, Caraton, Rasmussen, Idaru, and Brendan Lee, who has a 3-second penalty, so that's going to drop him quite a ways down. But Stakelek now runs in the points as a courtesy of that penalty. So I think we're going to see now a phase of the Grand Prix like we saw earlier on, guys settling in for the last phase of the race, saving tyres, saving ERS. Would expect the last part of the race to be absolutely grandstand. Longay a bit wide there, and is this the chance for Donoso to go for it? Not quite. He uses the battery to get himself in front. Donoso's not quite got a lot of battery at all, really, and Longay's got absolutely plenty to defend with 70% compared to 14% in the battery for Donoso. But crucial moves early on, and a great strategy from Lucas Blakely works his way through. But Jake Benham in with a solid shout here, isn't he?
Absolutely. Jake Benham seemingly coming from sort of nowhere in this race. He was in and around the top 10, but he wasn't in the picture for the win of this race. Now he's following in behind Lucas Blakely, running P2, but of course the tyres are going to be more worn out. Longay's got 2 laps fresher than Jake Benham and Lucas Blakely, and Ronhart's got 3 laps fresher than anyone else around him, so that could play into the hands of those two later on in this race when the tyres are beginning to go off. Of course, they don't last as long as the hard compound. They'll still be able to get to the end comfortably. 18 laps it's going to be for Blakely, so they should be able to get to the end of this race, but they are not going to be in great condition compared to Ronhart and Longay. It is going to be tough for the Scotsman to defend.
Yeah, and he's got 13 laps to hang on to where he is right now as well. So tall order for Lucas Blakely out front. But as it stands currently, the stat of winning from pole is still looking like it's not going to be broken as they carry on. Ronhart out to 6th place, but that's still very much not out of contention. Anything can happen in front, but he's dropped behind Burman, Donoso, Longay, Benham and Blakely as a result of the pit stops. So there's still plenty of time left in this race, and it's still basically almost a 9-car train if we exclude Joni Tormala, Simon Weigel and all those guys who were over a second apart. But even still, they're still all so close together as they come through to begin another lap. Blakely now, he hasn't had a race win this season. He's had a pole position all right, but hasn't converted it. And it'll be interesting to see now what he can do from this lead position. Jake Benham trying to make life difficult for him out just behind in the Haas. Nicolas Longay trying to get himself on the top step of the podium for the first time this season in his newly announced colours. And Donoso Well, I mean, if he stays where he is, he's going to keep a very, very consistent record going. But Burnham now putting pressure on him as they come around the turn number 3, a little bit wide from him that time as he came through. Ron sitting pretty in the Mercedes just behind, watching and waiting for anything that's going to happen here. But very much now a settled part of the race, because a side-by-side battle when you're in the midfield could very easily lose you DRS.
Absolutely, and it is very difficult to gain it back without using all of your battery. We saw that earlier with Donoso, and he had to burn all of his resources to try and get back in the fray. Do not count out Thomas Ronhaar, by the way. We've seen some fantastic climbs up the order in the past, like Jarno at Australia in season 28, and again in season 30. We've got a yellow flag, and that is Tormala, unfortunately, going around, and he is out of contention for any points at this point in the Grand Prix. But what I'm trying to get out here is that even though he's in 6th position, it's going to be difficult for him to win from here. We can never count out Thomas Ronhaar. We can't count anyone out at this point. Who knows what is going to occur as Ronhaar, he's actually closing to the rear of Burnham. He has a half look to the inside. Burnham dives on the rear of Donoso, and there's contact between the pair of them, and they're going to run wheel to wheel now off the exit of turn number 3. Oh, Ronhaar's onto the grass. Donoso has to leave him the space, as can the Mercedes driver. Try and slip through. He's going to have the inside line into the braking zone. Oh, and there's more contact between the pair of them. Slight bang of rear tyre to front left of Ronhaar, and now Donoso down 2 positions in the space of just a few corners. It could be 3, as now Alvaro Carreton with plenty of ERS could try and scrap with the Chilean driver, but it all got a bit intense there. I think they're going to try and calm it down for the time being, but Donoso the big loser in all of that.
Yeah, I don't think he actually expected Ronhaar to go for the move on the inside, but he was there, and Ronhaar, I think, just giving him a little tap into the next part of the corner to just maybe a little bit of revenge for pushing him on the grass down the straight. But now Carreton is on the attack. The battery is flashing, as you can see, on Donoso's rear end as he comes round turn number 1. He's very, very vulnerable. He's already lost the rear end, and he almost catches the rear of the next car behind. He's going to get all kick off here. Rasmussen pounces behind. Idowu pounces behind as well. Carreton got caught up as an innocent victim there, and Idowu up the inside of Donoso, and in the space of a couple of laps, as you can see, 4 positions down for Donoso in that part of the race. Carreton now trying to pounce. Brendan Lee coming through as well. He's got a penalty, remember, so he's going to phase through, but he will have 3 seconds to add to his time, but that is how quickly it can change. Rasmussen up now up to 6th place, Idowu to 7th, Carreton to 8th, Donoso in 9th place, Brendan Lee behind him in 10th, but that's how quickly it can change, and how 4 positions down in the space of basically a lap. But as you can see out front, Blakely's starting to now put some pressure on. 0.5 of a second, he's up in the outer, and he's nearly, if he keeps it up now, he may be able to break away from DRS, which is exactly what Longa and Burnham don't want. So maybe now is the time to pounce on Jake Burnham.
Yeah, in all of this battling as well, we still have 18 cars following in this train, which is just incredible to think about. Poor Alvaro Carreton just really caught out there. It was so unfortunate, as did Brendan Lee. He's now down into 10th position. Neither of them really benefited from Donoso's slight mistake, and now actually Brendan Lee looks for a move on his teammate, who's got the blinking red light, so he knows he's vulnerable. Ferrari on Ferrari action down at turn number 3. Oh, Donoso's off the circuit, completely forced wide by his teammate there, and it just goes from bad to worse. Really having a tough time for Donoso when it looked like he'd be outscoring his main championship rival in this Grand Prix. He's now 12th and out of a points paying position. It could still unravel for him, because Saipos is going to scythe on through, and it is just not looking good for the Chilean whatsoever.
No, and this is again really bad for the championship for Donoso. Of course, no points scored would mean a big loss, and again he's continuing to lose the rear end through most of the corners now as he carries on his charge through here. But we're coming on to lap number 28 at 36. Blakely still leads in front of Burnham, in front of Longa, Burnham and Ronhaar, but this is going to be a large gain for Burnham at the championship if he keeps it up today. But it's interesting to see how quickly it can change. Donoso was 4th, and all of a sudden now he's 12th, out of the points from one single battle, really, or a couple of battles together. And again, he's under pressure now from Matthias van Erven. As Longa now decided to go for the move on Jake Burnham. It didn't quite work out that time as he came through turn 3. And Matthias van Erven having to dive out of the corner there to to avoid Donoso that time, but it's getting a little bit feisty up the front now between all of these guys. Longo tried to move on Burnham. Burnham left the outside open and managed to keep it together, but Ronhar now freshest tires of anybody. He can afford to push a little bit harder. They're starting to concertina up a little bit more now, but I'm interested to see how this carries on as Donoso now is off the track in the gravel, and that is what was a brilliant drive from Donoso, now going to be falling down to the back of the field.
Yeah, you do have to feel for him. He's been in the wars for these last few laps, and I wouldn't be surprised if he is our first retirement of the day, just out of pure frustration. He peels off into the pits. But meanwhile, at the front of the order, it's looking good for the McLaren team. Blakely seems poised to win this race, and Barry Burman could be outscoring his main rivals in this championship. Of course, it is early doors, but Jarno not racing today, and Donoso down in 18th position. And there it is, confirmation of first. Oh dear, Longue!
Longo went into the rear of Burnham, lost the rear end. That's just lost him a ton of places. Down to 7th place. He goes. Carreton now going to pounce on him as well. Coming to the outside of turn 4. Carreton trying his best to go around the outside. That's not going to work. Going to go around a road there. Carreton has to back out of it. Got run out of room there. Brendan Lee going to go through on Carreton as they all filed through there. But very, very small error from Longo. Went into the rear of Burnham, but just a small bit, lost the rear, and that promotes Barry up to the podium now. 3rd place for him, and Longo drops down into 7th place. It continues to really change lap on lap on lap, but that's given Blakely an opportunity to try and break away. 7/10 of a second is now the gap, and Burnham now needs to keep within the DR. He's got loads of battery though to try and do that. Barry up to 3rd, Ron out 4th, and the man who's worked his way into this very, very quietly and very methodically, Freddie Rasmussen, is now in the fight for the win.
If you told me this was the top 5 but at the beginning of the race, I'd have laughed at you, and it still might change as here comes Rasmussen to the outside of Ronhar, the Dutchman defending to the inside here. Can Freddie try and look for an opportunity around the outside? It's not going to work. The gap won't open for him, but he had a half look and he knows that he has the pace to try and get by on Thomas. But now with about 6.5 laps left to go in this Grand Prix, Lucas Blakely has been leading since the pit stop phase. Jake Burnham has been in 2nd since the pit stop phase. It has completely changed about further back behind us. Tormala sets the fastest lap and then retires on the next lap, so he's done for the day. That is 2 retirements in this race, but still plenty of action to go along here. And still, Jack, in all of this battling, still 14 cars following in one DRS train. It's just, once again, amazing to me.
Yeah, it's so close, and again, as we've seen as perfect evidence throughout the past couple of laps, one mistake is all it takes to drop you out of contention. As they come around turn 1, Burnham now working his way back into contention. He's still got loads of battery. He's got 70% battery compared to Blakely's 50%, so he has got more in the tank. Borman is very much looking to get by though. He had a little look to the inside in turn 3. He's thinking about it, isn't he? He really wants to go for the move, but Ronar's watching and waiting in the wings. Rasmussen biding his time in behind as well, so it can still all change in the blink of an eye, but Blakely is controlling this very, very nicely, you'd have to imagine. Up the front, Borman wants to make it a McLaren 1-2. Once again in this one, but Blakely would want to take his first win of the season so far. Borman has already had a win in Bahrain, and he'd love to get a victory again here at Austria. But it would be nice to see maybe a new name on the top, and have 3 different winners from 3 rounds so far in PSGL PC F1. Jake Burnham would love dearly to get a win around here, and he's still very much in with a shout, but Borman is all over him around the last corner. They go again. 0.2 of a second is all that separates him, but he has got the battery to defend with. He's got 20% more in the battery compared to Borman, so if he needs to use it, he can, but Borman's starting to maybe force him to use it a bit more. Around the first corner again he goes, boosts away a little bit on the exit of turn number 1, and they continue to sit pretty. Borman is still very much there. Burnham getting closer and closer to Blakely, who doesn't want to make a move too early on in this race. Blakely a little bit wide there on the exit of turn 3. Back on the power again, he will go, but he just uses the battery to get away from him just a little bit. Borman thinking about Burnham going defensive to the inside. There's no room there, and Borman has to go to the outside of turn number 4, trying to go all the way around the outside. Burnham's going to run him out of road. Surely he leaves him the space. Such respectful racing, and Burnham hangs on just about. Into turn 5 they go, almost contact, and Burnham hangs on to it just about.
Oh my word, if you can see me right now, Jack, I have a big smile on my face. What a race we are being treated to in PSGL PC F1, and I think at this point the tyre game is really beginning to come into effect, because Barry Burman has 2 lap fresher tyres than both Blakely and Burnham, and a further lap fresher for Thomas Ronhaar in behind. Can these two use that to their advantage? We have to wait and see as we fly on towards lap number 33 of 36. Thank you to everyone tuning in to this race. It has been so special this evening, and it's not going to end here, as here comes Barry Burnham now looking to the outside of Jake Burnham once more in towards turn number 3. Oh, he's trying to go around the outside. He has to leave him the space as Ronhaar now slips through in the Mercedes car. Is he going to peel off and take P2 in this race? It's going to be a drag race down in towards turn number 4. Downhill braking for the pair of them. Who's going to take the position? It is Ronhaar on the inside. He's done it, but Jake Burnham is in the fight as well. He's made the move stick on Burnham now down into 4th position. Ronhaar, ever the opportunist, making the move stick. What an overtake on the pair of them. Jake Burnham and Barry Burnham caught napping, scrapping for P2. 4th place man and pole sitter for this evening. Thomas Ronhaar says thank you very much and slips through undetected.
Through goes Ronhaar. Don't you see that? A brilliant job from Thomas Ronhaar. Opportunistic and almost reminiscent of exactly what happened a couple of seasons ago between at that exact corner. Otmir did the exact same thing in the same car, and Ronhaar's made it work as well. He's back in contention for the race win. Blakely still leads though, and there's only 2 laps remaining, so it's now all or nothing. Rasmussen now on the attack on Burnham up the inside into turn 3. Back on the power he goes. Burnham trying to keep in front, but he doesn't have the battery to defend with, does he? Round towards the next part of the corner. Rasmussen gets into 4th place, and in the chance for a podium now is the Dane, and it's still very much now Blakely in control, but again, look at Ronhaar. He's at 0.3 of a second back, and he's still in contention for the race win here. What a race, and it's now a grandstand finish here at Austria for the Austrian Grand Prix Round 3. Will there be a new winner? We find the stat broken for pole position. Blakely's led since the pit stops. How much can he hold on with 2 more laps remaining?
He's got that Mercedes blood in him right now. Thomas Ronhaar, he's going to be laser focused for these last 2 laps, on the verge of winning from pole position in PSGL, and Lucas Blakely as well following ahead. Both of them pole sitters so far this season, now looking to do battle as here they go onto the DRS straight for the penultimate time in this race. Thomas Ronhaar following in behind on Lucas Blakely. He just can't get close enough in towards turn number 3. But what about Josh Adowu to the inside of... Oh dear, there's contact, and Freddie Rasmussen has been sent into a spin, and now Longue's back into in a position. He's in 4th place. There's Brendan Lee as well in towards 5th. Burnham down to 6th. Josh Adowu tries to make a move in towards turn number 4. It doesn't quite work out, but at the front of the order, Jack, how about this? Blakely is feeling the pressure from Ronhaar.
Yeah, he certainly is as they come around to begin the final. You can see Idaho just completely missed his breaking point there, and poor old Freddie Rasmussen was a complete innocent victim there. But it's now, they both have the same amount of battery, and Blakely is in trouble now as they come around towards the last corner. Can Ronhaar steal it from him with 1 more lap to go at Austria? Round the last corner for the final time. Austria has delivered a grandstand once again, and it's now going to be an absolute grandstand finish. Ronhaar desperate to try to get through. Blakely wants him to go through. He wants him to go through. They've cost each other time. Burnham's now in the fight here as they come up towards the turn number 3 for the final time. Blakely under pressure. Here comes Thomas Ronhaar to the outside of turn number 3 for the final time. Can he make it work on the outside line? Into the next corner, he outbrakes. Blakely leaves him room. Watch for Jake Burnham now on the power as they come down towards turn number 4. It's all getting very, very tight. Blakely leaves him space on the outside line. Ronhaar's still there. Blakely's got the battery to work with though, and hangs on into turn 4. And Blakely now back to the lead of the race. Ronhaar desperate to get through. Longue back up to 4th as they fight for position in the background. Blakely has somehow hung on to that through turn number 4 into turn 5 and turn 6 for the last time. Will there still be a late twist in the tail down towards the last 2 corners for the last time? Ronhaar desperate to make it work towards the last 2 corners. What a race, what a Grand Prix in Austria. 1 more corner to go for Lucas Blakely. Can he hang on for a victory out of the last corner? Yes, he can. Lucas Blakely wins the Austrian Grand Prix by 0.2 of a second. Ronhaar is 2nd. Jake Burnham, a well-deserved 3rd place. Longue 4th. Burnham, Idaho, Caraton, Stakelek, Brendan Lee, and Freddie Rasmussen, who just about made it across the line. What a race. Lucas Blakely keeps the streak alive and wins for the first time this season. 3 different winners in 3 rounds. Ronar just missing out, and Jake Burnham, what a brilliant drive to 3rd place. But once again, a McLaren on top, but this time it is Lucas Blakely with his first victory this season. What a Grand Prix!
Oh, McLaren on top once again in season 31. It was Burnham at Bahrain, and now it's Blakely at Austria. And what a finish. What a race that was. And I think we have to talk about Thomas Ronhaar in all of this. I mean, this is really a star in the making. We are getting to watch his journey from the offset coming into PSGL PC this season. He is looking like a completely different driver from what he was last game, and he was still incredibly talented. But at the end of the day, it was not meant to be. His win will come eventually, but it is the way of the Scot. How about that? I doubted him after qualifying. I said I didn't expect him to be this low down the order. Bam! He comes in. He proves us all wrong. He proves me wrong, I would say, and he wins the race. And the podium celebration's about to get underway. The smirk on his face says it all, and we need to talk to this man in the interviews. We need to talk to all of them, because that was quite the race, as lifting the trophy in celebration. The Scotsman is on top. The McLaren team are delighted, and the champagne celebrations soon to begin. Lucas Blakely, your winner in Austria.
Yeah, what a brilliant job from Lucas Blakely, and a brilliant job from all the drivers here. Lucas Blakely, there is confirmation, taking the win there in front of Thomas Ronhaar, Jake Burnham, Nicholas Longway settling for 4th. Barry Borman in 5th place right there. So again, a top 5 finish for him. Josh Idawu, great result in P6. Caraton, Stakelek, Brendan Lee getting getting P9. And Rasmussen, who unfortunately was the victim of an incident, finishing in 10th. Van Erven, Kiefer, Hughes, Sipos, Samuel Bain, Simon Weigang, Daniel Haddad, and Lewis Welch, who did make the end. Yanni Tormela DNFing, and Fabrizio Donoso also DNFing from this Grand Prix. That was an absolutely insane Grand Prix once again from these guys. And what that does do, though, because everybody in front of him basically had a terrible race, Blakely's worked his way back into the title fight now. I think, far as I can see, he's worked his way up to 2nd in the championship just with that one race.
And I'd imagine that it's his teammate in front of him, of Barry Burman. So McLaren really are in a great position at the moment, and it was just a fantastic race. And I believe we peaked at 3,000 live viewers today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. It was really spectacular, and hopefully we can get some interviews. Can you check the interview room just momentarily, Jack, and see if anyone's in there yet?
It's empty.
It's empty. Sad.
Nobody wants to talk to us.
Oh, I mean, I would love to talk to these guys after that race and get their opinions on all the action, because there was just so much to talk about, and I don't even know where to start at this point.
Well, I'll make a point. Actually, I think probably the talking point is probably the final lap, because I think everyone noticed what Blakely actually tried to do into turn 1. What he was trying to do was let Ronhaar go through, so he would not have DRS, or that Blakely could get back past him again. Ronhaar saw better of it and tried to keep behind him, but it actually ended up dragging Jake Burnham into the fight in the end. But again, Blakely, I don't know how he managed to hang on in the end, down towards turn 4. I thought it was all said and done when Ronhaar had the DRS down towards turn 4, but he somehow managed to hang on with maybe just a little bit of extra battery, and Ronhaar was fair enough not to fight too much, but it was an insane end to the Grand Prix. I mean, there's always chaos around Austria, but that was particularly good. I think now we're going to have to make an edit of this, of Jarno going down the inside of 2 cars and then compare it to Ronhaar doing the exact same thing a year later. Brilliant. Austria always does something like this.
Every single time. The past 4 seasons now have all been the same. 3 seasons. Is it? I'm losing my maths. That's why I didn't pick it for A-levels.
It's 3. It's 3, I think.
But still, history is just repeating itself like a ripple down at that 3rd corner. I mean, it is just incredible how entertaining that corner is, and I think we should name it for PSGL corner fireworks. We'll come up with a better name at some point, but it's just insane. I personally don't believe that it was a penalty. I think I think it is fair. Ronhaar also did back off as well, but there was no contact at all, and it was fair game. So I wouldn't say it was a penalty, but of course the stewarding is done by the driver's volition. So if Ronhard does report it, the stewards are obliged to have a look. So and I'm seeing justice for Thomas in the live chat. So I think they all have a different opinion to me. Maybe I'm wrong here.
I think a lot of us are maybe on the same page, and there will be divided opinion. But well, I mean, right on cue, I suppose, Dan. You've got somebody for you. Thomas Ronhard's waiting for you.
Okay, fantastic. I will bring us over to the interview room, and we will talk to Thomas Ronhard. Thomas, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so first off, let's talk about your qualifying today. How did that go for you? Of course, you took pole position. How was that?
Yeah, qualifying absolutely nailed the lap. Probably one of the better laps I've done on this game so far. Even in practice, like I was only like 100th of my PB, so that was very good from my side. Yeah, then the race had a pretty horrific start. I dropped a second, but then I got around the outside of Nico, so I stayed P1 for basically the whole stint with Nico driving in front. Yeah, Lucas made the undercut. That was eventually the right choice. Looking back at it, but yeah, overall really happy with the result, and then yeah, GG to Lucas of course for the great battle.
Yeah, of course. We'll talk about that moment at the beginning of the final lap in a moment's time, but I want to talk about the pit stop phase. Of course, you came out after pitting later than everyone else, down in 6th position, and what was going through your heads when you'd realised you'd lost the lead?
Well, never give up, obviously. I knew I had way fresher tyres than the rest of the field, so yeah, it was just keeping the aeros on a decent level, trying to put some pressure on the guys ahead and trying to force them into mistakes, which worked out. I think Nico spun, and I think Jake was in the incident as well. So yeah, really happy.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very hectic race. So much went on, and then it all sort of culminated to the action at the final lap. Lap number 36, and in towards turn number 1 we saw Lucas Blakely braking and try and give you the DRS, and I sort of want to get your opinion. I think everyone else would love to get your opinion on that.
Well, he has every right to do that, obviously, as long as he don't brake check right in front of me. He moved over, so yeah, I guess it's within the rules, so I'm not gonna blame him for that. But I knew when going to the last lap he was gonna do that, so in my mind I'm like, when is he gonna do it? When is he gonna do it? And then he did it, and then instantly broke to get DRS, because otherwise I would have not defended, because my straight line speed compared to Lucas was pretty horrific. So yeah, it was fine.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's good to see that there's no bad blood between the pair of you. At the moment, there's a hashtag going on in the live chat, Justice for Thomas. So everyone seems to think that you are the rightful race winner. And I think it's been a fantastic Grand Prix from you today. So I think no matter the result, you need to hold your head high. But from me, that is it. But Jack, if you want to chime in here, do you have any questions for our second place man today?
Yeah, obviously, Thomas, you now have the most pole positions of anyone so far, and you are a reserve driver. So, I mean, it's sort of been an impressive showing. Do you think that being able to race in such a top tier is allowing you to prove yourself more on a big stage?
Well, I guess yes, because everyone's watching PSGL. There are loads of people watching, so I guess performing at the very front is obviously going to help. But yeah, we'll see in a few weeks if I get a seat somewhere in some team in PSGL.
Brilliant stuff. Well, that's all from me and from myself. So, Thomas, congratulations on a great second place. Thank you for giving us such a brilliant battle, and we'll hopefully see you next week.
Yes, thank you.
Thomas Ronhard there. So you heard it from the man himself. Thomas is not mad about the incident, but I think it's only right that we hear the other side of it, Dan, because Lucas Blakely now joins us in the commentary box. So we have the man himself, the race winner, joins us in the box. Lucas Blakely, what a battle right at the end. And you continue the stat. Nobody's won from pole yet. First win of the season for yourself. How does it feel?
No one's won from pole?
No.
Wow, okay. Yeah, I enjoyed that one. I'm a bit gutted to see that there's so much sort of I don't know what the word would be. That much upset at the moment. I don't know 100% what it's really about, whether it's for last lap or things like that. But on my side, I honestly thought that everything was okay. I mean, I obviously have my own perspective of it. I can't see obviously everything from like Thomas's angle, and I'm not 100% sure, honestly, what everyone's maybe a little bit annoyed for, but that's because I haven't seen all the sides of it yet. But no, other than that, I mean, yeah, GG to everyone, or GG to Thomas. It was a trick. Didn't know how I was gonna try and like stay ahead of someone on fresher tires as well. It was yeah, I had to think going into those last laps. I was like, how am I gonna do it? I need to do something inventive because you're not gonna keep someone with like 3 laps tire or whatever it was. Like, you're not gonna keep them ahead under normal conditions. So I was like, well, I need to get creative. So yeah, I was happy across the line, and I mean, I'm hearing so many different things in my Twitch chat about like, oh, you're getting complained at for this and this, and to be honest, at this point, I'm not sure how much I care. I'm just happy that yeah, I enjoyed the race. I won on track. Whatever happens after, happens after. So I'm just gonna have a smile on my face, and that'll be it. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think we can probably shed some light, and we just obviously heard from Thomas. I think what we were regarding was the last lap, turn 1. Yourself obviously trying to let him through. I think maybe chat interpreted that a bit wrong, but there's obviously no bad blood from Thomas. We just heard from him. He said I would have done the exact same thing. So and he expected you to do it too. So you heard from both of them. No bad blood there, but yeah, overall you obviously made the early call to come into the pit lane, making the undercut work as well. And you obviously mentioned it must have been quite hard to we didn't expect you to hang on on tires that were 3 laps older, but someone managed to do it. It was pretty intense right at the end. Yeah,
well, I mean, I didn't think I would manage to do it myself. I was just going by lap, thinking maybe there's a small chance. But and I mean, also touching on what you just said there, I mean, I'm glad that there's nothing bad on Thomas's side. I mean, he's so fast. It's it's just a matter of time before he's doing some great things in the world of esports. So full credit to him, and glad that there's no nothing negative like that. And as for the last lap, I didn't think there was anything. I know what I've done. I mean, I'm very, very conscious of how that can be interpreted, because if you do that the wrong way, you're going to brake check somebody, which is obviously illegal. So I was very conscious of that, and that's why when I was doing it, I was checking behind me to make sure that when I did the slowdown, that I wasn't going to do it directly in front of Thomas. So as far as I can see it, I don't think I did anything wrong. I knew consciously what I was trying to do, and I was never going to intentionally do it in such a manner that would result in 2 cars colliding going into the last lap. So I can understand how that can be maybe seen from the outside, but I was fully under control of what I was sort of doing at that point. But as for the strategy, it was immensely tricky to decide, because the temptation is always to you want to go longer as well. You don't want to be hanging on it by a thread at the end, because your tires will be gone. But I knew track position was king, and I knew the undercut was quite strong, but I didn't quite think it was that strong. It was crazy. We gained like 5 positions, and I literally got to a point I was like, are we in the lead? I couldn't quite understand it. But then the good thing that I also knew is I had Jake behind me. He was also pitted the same lap, so I knew in my head that if you're looking at it from a pace point of view, it was ideal that Jake's the one behind me and not someone with a fresher set of tyres. So I was sort of trying to play that game. Well, I mean, I couldn't really influence it, but I was sort of just trying to rely on that, I guess, until a certain stage that the faster runners got through. But I seen there was a lot of chaos behind, and I think that sort of delayed the process of everybody sort of channeling their way through, because if the faster runners got through with the fresher tyres, I doubt very much I would have been able to do what I did in the last lap. But I mean, honestly, I really enjoyed that. I knew that I would have to pull something pretty different to pull up, like to get the win out of it. And I mean, I have no idea what will happen from this point. I mean, yeah, I'm just happy with the result. I mean, I won on track, and yeah, that's all it really, for me at this stage. I'm just happy with that, because I feel like the race was quite strong after what was a really disappointing qualifying. But it just shows that you have to sort of just, even before the race, I was quite annoyed. So I was like, you've just got to switch your head on and get on with it, because there's always an opportunity. So I'm glad that I made the best of all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, of course, now with the win, brings you right back into title contention. I know it's obviously early days, but every point counts overall. Barry leads the championship. I think you're working your way back up into title contention as well. So looking like it's going to be a tight season overall.
Yeah, well, I mean, USA was a bit of a disaster. I'm glad that, yeah, we avoided that this time at least. So, yeah. But at the end of the day, I'm just sort of taking it race by race. I mean, I'm just trying to learn as much as possible. You know, it takes an immense amount of work to get on top of absolutely everything on a new game, and I'm still in the process of trial and error before we get to obviously the busy end of the season in esports. So, yeah, still a lot of rough edges that we need to work on, but I think on the whole, it's pretty. It's a positive start. I mean, it certainly could be a lot worse. So I'll take the positives and go from here.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's all we got for you, Lucas. Well, congratulations on finally getting the race victory, and we'll see you next time out.
Thanks so much, guys, and yeah, see you next week. Is it Miami?
Yes.
I think so.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yes,
This is how I find out the calendar every week. It's like, okay, see you later, guys. What's the next track?
You're acting as if I know that.
Sorry. Yeah, that's literally how I was just double checking, but yeah, no problem, guys, and yeah, look forward to next week. Take care. Ciao, ciao.
Lucas Blakely, who you heard it from both sides. No bad blood, and end of conversation, I suppose, in that regard. So, yeah, I don't know if we've got anybody else. I can see Jake Burnham there, but he's like server muted, so I actually can't talk to him. I don't know what he's done, but he's angered somebody clearly.
I think we'll call it there. It has been a fantastic race this evening, and I know that there has been some controversy, and I know that Thomas and Lucas, they say there's no bad blood, but of course it is inevitable. There will be some discussion on social media, and I ask that everyone still watching keep it respectful. Don't send any hate towards Lucas or towards Ronhar. You know, it is at the end of the day just at league racing, so please do keep it respectful. But from us, that is everything. As previously mentioned, we are headed to Miami next week. I will be back once again filling in for George Morgan. But it has been a fantastic race today in Austria. And thank you to Jack Canan for joining us. Make sure you subscribe to the PSGL YouTube channel. It's the big red button beneath this live stream. You cannot miss it. And make sure you follow us on Twitter and on Instagram as well. It's PremierSimGL. You can find myself at DanfieldF1_, and you can find Jack at Jack C Coms if I'm not mistaken. But from us, it is everything, and good night. Stay safe, everybody.